Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hello.
How's everybody doing today? We got a bunch of friends in the crowd. We have Vanessa, Beast, Chris, Destiny. What's up, everybody?
Everybody's
Man.
here.
We, Smoke and I wanted to do this just, well, both because we like the CPS2 library and because I kind of wanted to hype this up for Jotego's Core, which is probably coming out in the next few weeks to add more CPS2 games to it. So I feel like spreading the love for both FPGA and original hardware. So I think this would be kind of a fun thing to go through.
Yeah, who would have thought we'd be at the point of talking about CPS2 on Mister already?
Right? This is.
I would have thought that would be way out. It's a very powerful system if people don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of is. To me, I mean, it feels similar to the Neo Geo, but with a lot more graphical power, I guess.
True. Yeah, exactly.
And the Capcom colors.
So before we get started, if anybody wants to let us know, are our mics at a good level? Is the game audio too loud? Just right? Just kind of let us know. And I feel like we'd start with some vertically oriented games, just for the heck of it, just for fun. And then I'll get up, flip my monitor over, and go back to playing. Hey, what's up, Gabriel?
Hey, Pyron's here. So what are you playing on right now, Bob? You have a...
So I have
PVM or
a
something?
14-inch PDM because I hit the ground real hard the other day walking home with the ice. I messed my finger up.
Oh, man.
So I was like, I'm going to be a wimp and use the little 14-inch so I don't have to pick it up and flip it over or pick the bigger one up. So I got a CPS2 running a new custom supergun that's being designed for people that want to consoleize their arcade boards. So, you know, most people like one supergun and you just attach them to whatever board that you want. This is designed for people that want to do kind of like what I did with this and make one unit for everything. So it's designed to be cheap, but also excellent audio and video quality and like no frills. So it doesn't have auto fire or button reprogramming or all that, but it does have just standard video output and all that stuff and one of the highest quality. And of course,
Nice.
It's got original CPS2 board with the DarkSoft Multi, which is how we're doing all this. I just installed a longer cable into my CPS2 kit itself. I don't know if anybody can see this. Yeah. So I'm able to switch games with this, and it's pretty long. I don't have to reach over, which is great for anybody mounting these inside actual arcade boards. And of course, the stream is through Marcus's CPSHDMI kit, which I have running in 1280 by 1024 at the moment. And a little on the top and bottom are cut off just because we're not going to play too many vertically oriented games, so I figured I'd flip it back. So.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, Chris reminded me that the Smoke's cam is sticking out a little bit past the border. Always down for a little bit of OCD tweaking.
I like the idea of more of a simpler supergun on the market because, like, my original plan, but I originally only had like a homemade crappy supergun that I built, and then the Haas. And then I wanted to get one more simpler supergun so that I could have like one set up on a TV for vertical and one for horizontal stuff.
Yep.
I ended up getting another Haas though because that was way back before you had any choices. But it would be nice to have for people who have a spare, like, you know, you have your main supergun and then have one set up on your whatever your fighting game setup or your vertical setup or something like that.
Agreed. You know, and there's some games that are just your favorites. Like, I don't care if a perfectly flawless Mortal Kombat 1 core is released. I'm still gonna want the original hardware. And it's just, I think with all respect to Mister and to all software emulation as well, that's just a choice some people have. Like, some people just want original hardware for their favorite games. Some people are collectors, and some people don't really care. And using a Raspberry Pi is all they'll ever need, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. The only thing wrong with that
and
is
there are
like,
games where we'll never get them for.
Oops.
You know, there are games that you have that we'll just never get a core for, probably, like obscure stuff.
Absolutely.
Superman arcade game, just little stuff, you know, that would take a ton of effort for very little payoff, and it'd be just one game. So you gotta have a supergun around.
I'm also playing on Saban's old Helix stick, which is by far the best arcade stick I've ever used. I love this one. It feels so sturdy. It's like I'm playing on an actual arcade machine.
This guy here.
Yeah!
Mine's not as nice as yours, though, but... Yeah, this
Mine's
was
actually pretty beat up, but I feel like I'm playing on a stick that Art probably won tournaments in. So it's like buying a famous musician's old instrument. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
it's
good miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
Rasta Jedi wants me to bring my mic up a notch. You know, I'm gonna put the music and smoke down a little instead because I think I'm actually all the way up. Hopefully that'll work out though.
MCJ asks, how much lag does beer add to your fighting game skills?
You know, all kidding aside, the funny thing about this is when I was recording the last album that I did, I took it super seriously. And I got a little stressed, so occasionally I would have like a couple beers while recording, and after just one beer, my accuracy was starting to go down. Now, not enough to ever make a difference live, and probably everybody else on the planet wouldn't be able to hear the differences, but I could, because it's my music and my guitar. So I would assume that if you're a professional game player, you should treat it the same way and probably just do whatever works for you. I know a lot of people that prefer weed because it makes them relax and not obsess over stuff. So it would actually be a help for that, but it still might lower your accuracy. So.
And what about a kombucha with vodka like you're drinking today?
Well, you know, Smoke, sometimes mental health comes into a factor, and I'm trying to be healthy with the kombucha, so.
Yeah, it's a health drink. What can you say?
Promoting probiotic gut health. I don't even know what the fuck that means. I got a gut and a kombucha, though, so I guess I win. So, this is the very first game in the list on the DarkSoft Multi, which that was a coincidence that it happened to be a vertically oriented game. But do you know anything about this version? Because I've only really played 1943 and I think one of the predecessors.
Which one did you fire up again?
I think this is 1940XX, or 19XX it says.
What do I know about this? Not much. Was this in the actual 1940s series? Let me look. It's a Capcom game. Yeah, okay, so I'll tell you what Wikipedia tells me. The previous games were 1942, 1943, and 1941 Counterattack on the CPS1. And then it was followed by 1944 The Loopmaster in 2000.
So I don't know what this is then. Maybe it's
this
a ROM
is 19XX from 1995.
Okay.
Which it's the fourth game in the series, I guess.
I'm loving it so far.
And it's not related, as I used to sort of not realize, to the Strikers games. Those are different on Neo Geo and before.
Ooh. I actually remember playing 1943 on my NES. I'm sorry, I know I've told this story before, but I remember my dad bringing it home and sitting in front of the TV, like smashing the B button to fire, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. It's just like the kids in the commercial. It's gonna get all excited. And that lasted all of like a minute before I was like, all right, enough's enough. Like it's so my dad went out and got a flight controller stick with auto fire. And
nice.
I actually bought that stick the other day, and I wanted to clean it up because I'm always OCD about cleaning my used controllers. And the wires fell off. Like they were so poorly made, or at least the wiring was so bad on the inside that like just by opening it up, all of the wires just kind of fell off. So I gotta tweet a picture of it and see if anybody has one, so I can know where all the wires go, or maybe even rewire it with non-crappy, super thin wires.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be like a crime to make shoot 'em ups that don't have auto fire.
Retro Gaming Systems Collector has a question. Any chance of a custom super gun setup? Could you be a little bit more specific, just because this is kind of a custom super gun?
All I'm going to recommend to people is whatever you do, don't think you're going to build your own. Because it's possible, and a lot of us have done it, and it takes a long time, and the results are not going to be as good as like a You know, nowadays you can get a sub $100 super gun with active RGB and sync and everything.
Yeah. That this vodka is what happens when you don't go to the store and you drink whatever's left in your cabinet. I have some beer as well, but I just wanted.
Is that your
Oh, shit.
cooking vodka?
I don't even know what the hell that is. That might have been something we bought a million years ago, and we had a bunch of people over thinking somebody might want like a drink, like a lighter drink like that, and then it's just been in our liquor cabinet for 2 years.
Pyron asked, do you have any suggestions of arcade sticks to use with Mister that's easy to find and not expensive?
Yeah, so Epos Fox asked that question the other day, and I deferred to Art and Beast actually, and they, I'll find that in my Twitter, but it should be in there, and it shouldn't be too far back if you want to scroll through it. But it, they both suggested some modern sticks that are pretty good, and of course, any stick that you think is comfortable, you could always replace with whatever buttons and wiring you want. This Vuelix already has a Brooks converter in it that outputs USB, so that's what I've been using for Mister, as well as what other sticks did I have with that?
Almost anything that's USB will work.
Yeah, I specifically used another one that was, or maybe it was just
The
this.
so Henry Clark mentioned the F300 Elites, and I used to recommend those to people because it's basically the 8-bit DOE N30 stick, except it's upgraded with nice parts. The problem is that the Elites, all of those May flashes have terrible, terrible lag, like absolutely god awful. And so the N30 has really good lag, but the new version of it that 8-bit DOE made has bad lag, and it's weird because it's not. It's lag that changes. Like it's not the same. Porkchop tested it. What do you call that? Like variable lag.
Lag's the worst kind.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't recommend the N30s or the May flashes anymore, unfortunately. They're really well made though. But if you took a May Flash Elite and you put like that Demon Bright arcade stick USB adapter in it, it's like for building your own arcade stick. That thing is like sub 1 millisecond. So that'd be good.
Yeah, you know, I want to look into that as well because I have another arcade stick. Actually, Destiny gave me, and I've been using that in a lot of videos because I wired it direct, and then Ben Fong actually put in a Virtual Boy controller. We found a beat-up, broken Virtual Boy controller, so he took the guts out, fixed whatever was wrong with it, and put it in that too. So I figured that one could use some USB as well, so that could just be like an everything controller.
Yeah, that'd be rad.
I'm digging this game.
And you built didn't you build a Namco stick a few years ago with like MC Cthulhu in it or something like that?
Yeah, Ben built it for me, and I ended up having to rebuild the whole thing for a bunch of reasons. So I ended up doing that one myself. All right, this game is awesome, but I feel like it's about to reach that point where we're just oh, nope. Crap. Hold on. So I'm assuming if I hit the wrong button, you shouldn't cancel it in the middle of flash writing.
You can do. I think you can just do whatever. I don't think it hurts anything.
Fingers crossed, everybody.
The CPS2 was one of the very first arcade things I ever got, a CPS2 Multi, because I had been on a family vacation a long, long time ago, and I went to Game Galaxy Arcade in Nashville, and the owner was there, and he was showing me stuff because I bought a arcade stick from him, the Mortal Kombat Classic.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that thing? And I, unfortunately, he had a pretty good deal on the dual Saturn Virtua Stick, you know, the Japanese one. At the time, I thought like 150. I was like, well, that's way too much. I'm not buying that. Kind of wish I had. But he was showing me, he had the original DarkSoft prototype CPS2 kit there.
Oh, yeah?
And he also had the CPS2 one that had like 16 games on it, really old one. And I just sat and messed around on the DarkSoft one, you know, for like an hour. And when I got home from the trip, I started looking on forums and I found one that had broken pins, and I got a really good deal on it. Had it shipped straight to Mitsurugi. He fixed it for free, sent it to me. The mail broke the pins in the kit on the way to me again, sent it back to him, and he fixed it a second time.
That's pretty awesome.
So I got a pretty good deal on my CPS2 Multi, considering.
I just looked up the tweet while I was waiting for the thing to load, and it looks like it's the Hori Fight Stick, the one of the newest ones that you could find on Amazon, and that should be a good one to use for modern, and you might have to add another adapter in there.
Alex is here from Human Interact.
Oh, what's up, Alex? I hung out with him out in Portland.
I keep hearing stories about that.
It was pretty fun. It's still flashing, but as far as arcade games go, it's actually still pretty quick.
Yeah. Did after you copied your files to it, I usually recommend people running the SD sorter, fat sorter kind of program.
I did a fresh format,
Okay,
so I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Somebody asked before about the Hydra 2. No, I never liked the Hydra. It never worked right for me, and every time a new version comes out, I get a lot of people asking to test it, and I haven't personally, but for every time that happens, there's always another person in there that's like, yeah, I got the new one, it doesn't work right.
The SCART switcher.
Yeah. Okay, this one's actually I guess I'm flipping my thing, so we're already here, so I might as well just go right to other ones.
So this is the follow-up to that last game, 19XX.
Okay. I don't know what happened to it. Where did it go?
Oh, I have a tip for you, Bob.
Yes. Oh, there we go.
Really old tip. So, if you test a whole bunch of micro SD cards, like 10 of them,
Yeah.
you'll find one probably that will load really fast on the CPS2 kit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you just got to go through them. I mean, I did that because my first one was really slow. Like, took minutes and minutes to load games. And then I loaded up one and it wouldn't work at all. And then I just loaded it on like 10 cards and I was like, I'm just going to test these until I find one. And I found one that loaded like really fast compared to the others. And I had written on the forum about that at the time. So if you ever want to like find a faster SD card, that's the way to do it. Set up like 4 or 5 like garbage micro SD cards you have laying around. I think the one I used was even generic or something, like didn't even have a brand name.
I tried a bunch, and I actually will try another one then, now that you mention that, but they all were about the speed. Because when I was testing, Arturo brought his CPS over so we could do a bunch of stuff. I wanted to update the firmware on his CPSHDMI, plus add some games that he wanted. There were some new ROM hacks for Street Fighter that he wanted to add to it. And we tested, I didn't want to mess with his card first, just in case. So I used like a brand new card I bought, tested it, it worked. So then I moved it over to the other. And everything, his cards, my cards, his kit, mine, it all loaded about the same. So I don't know, maybe this is actually kind of fast.
Yeah, it might be one of the fast ones. Where did I see? Someone asked, Omni/asked, what RAM is required for CPS2 on the Mister? That's a good question. I'm not sure. Probably, I think that Jotego likes to use the 32 megabyte for everything. I don't think he requires any more than that, but I don't know if that applies to CPS2.
Have you played the Puzzle Fighter Core?
On real hardware, yeah.
Oh, I mean on the CPS Core, CPS2 beta core.
No, I haven't messed with that yet. Have you?
I only to check it out. Hey, thank you so much for the super chat, Jeff. Jeez, I'm not even my first drink down, and I'm already getting people's names wrong. Sorry about that. It's very nice of you.
Yeah, thanks. Jeff said, love both of your channels. Can you guys make a newbie video on CPS2 board, inside and out, showing what you need to get started, talk about the boards A, B, and C, and show the DarkSoft adapter? Thank you.
That's more of a smoke video than me.
No, I already passed. I always give the same response to stuff. I don't do tutorial videos, and that gets me out of so much.
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that with stuff like this, to really understand and explain it. You really need to be an arcade expert because there's always a whole bunch of gotchas involved. And like, so I default to Jose for most hardware stuff. I default to Smoke for most hardware history stuff, and then I just kind of tag along. And that's why my CPSHDMI video was more about its features, and I only showed pictures of the installation, because I could do a tutorial of exactly what you would need to install it, but if you run into standard issues on arcade hardware, that all comes into play as well, and there's a lot of little things
actually
in there.
Yeah, and I think there is a video, actually, now that you mention. I think Jeremy Wallsdog Arcade did one on the CPS2 kit, like which boards you can use and all that kind of stuff. So look that up. If it wasn't him, it was someone else.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a link to that, I will put it in the description of this video after we're done streaming for anybody coming back to it. But yeah, I try to stick with what I know and not talk out of turn, because I don't want to give bad info. All right.
Oh, Scarlet Sprites has a good one.
Oh, he
and
does?
Wallsdog both.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
But okay, let's give people though a little. Let's throw some cold water on them about this, because it's very expensive now. It was expensive, I think, when we got ours set up, but nowadays, what do you think it costs for a full CPS2 kit setup if you're going to buy the hardware? You're talking around $1,000, $1,500, something like that.
So I asked that question a while back because somebody wanted one of these after seeing my setup and asked how much it would cost to buy everything pre-made. Then I started asking around, and if at first people were like, "Oh, it should be like $1,500," and then like a month later, I started asking again, and everybody was like, "Oh no, those things are selling for over $2,000 now." So I don't know what the real answer is.
You have like the digital mod on
Oh
yours,
yeah,
right?
that's what I meant for HDMI,
Or-
for the de-suicide mod to make sure that if the battery dies, that nothing's ever going to happen to it, and then of course for the DarkSoft Multi, and then you obviously need the A and B boards for that to work.
Yeah, so and A boards, I mean, you used to get those a dime a dozen. Now I think an A board is around $100-$150. A B board is the game, so you're talking the cheapest game you can find might be the kit's like 600 or more. Then you've got to install it all, put it together, and then you're still just going to have analog at that point. Most people are going to want digital if you've gone that far. So the short answer is get a Mister because you get all of that. You get the digital mod.
I definitely disagree on that, because there's a whole lot of people that already own a Mister that love it, and they probably already own a Raspberry Pi and love that too, but they've just decided they also want original hardware. I'm so sorry I stink at this game, by the way. I'll try to get better.
If you're asking about CPS2 kit, though, without knowing about it, it probably means you're not into the CPS2 enough to spend the amount of a small car to buy it.
That is a good point, Smoke. That is a very good point. Well, I mean, yes, but there's also a bunch of people that may have CPS2 arcade hardware just sitting around that they've owned for a long time and think, maybe now's the time to refurbish it and then add an HDMI and a multi-kit to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if I had a cab, I'd definitely put the DarkSoft kit in there.
My dream is 3 cabs, one vertical and then one for each, or one horizontal and then one for each vertically oriented set of games, and have 3 Misters in it, and then I also would have a way to swap out boards so I could put real hardware in it as well whenever I felt like it. I know it's ridiculous. I know there's always arcade, experts that are like, actually, you can get a Switch for the... Yeah, it's not what I want. It's my dream.
Well, the really ridiculous thing is that both you and I live in like tiny apartments where, unless, because we live in good locations but small houses, I think both of us, which
is
severely limiting in terms of arcade cabinet collecting.
I am looking to finally move though, which, holy crap, what a nightmare. There's like no houses on the market. We're looking to like actually get a place in the burbs, and it's just it's such a nightmare. I don't even want to do it anymore. I'd almost rather pay for an overpriced closet that I'm living in now than have to deal with this crap. But what can you do?
It would be cool if you got a basement or something.
That's all I want, man.
garage.
It's not that I want to like hang out in a basement. It's just that I want a spot that I could leave unfinished projects, and I don't feel guilty about it. I don't have to ask my wife to step over
You don't have to
thing of
put it away
wires.
every time.
Yeah. I'd want like at least not even necessarily an office, but just a spot that's like not a basement that I could work out of for when I'm writing scripts and maybe even recording the weekly stuff. But then yes, I want a basement so I could just leave piles of projects.
Yeah, I feel you there. I'm in that constant, like, getting things out, putting them away when I'm done, getting it out, and it's like, and then when you finish a project too, a lot of the times it goes back in a box and you're like, man, I put all that work into it, and now I've got it, like, you know, in the closet.
Yeah, and then whenever you do stuff like live streaming, there's always something standing in your way. And it's like, like when I did the live stream with Beast, you would have thought that playing the Mega SG, or SD with the expansion adapter would have been the easiest thing for me to set up. But I ran into like 20 different problems, and if I had just had a streaming setup, that wouldn't be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do you
And
think the
especially
next
for
game is after this? Because I'm embarrassingly bad at this one, and I want to give people something better to watch.
Well, Pro Gear is, I think it's known as
Pro
being
Gear.
hard, but you can try that maybe. It's vertical, right? Is it? Or
No.
oh wait, you're horizontal again now. Is it
Yep.
horizontal?
Yep. Because that I didn't even know what that game was until I started doing testing for the HDMI video, and I really, really liked it.
That and Dimahu. It's pretty awesome.
I'm sure we'll play a Street Fighter at some point, but I know people who could actually play the game, so it just seems weird for me to give it.
You won't catch me playing a Street Fighter in a stream, that's for sure. I will watch other people play it, but...
So do we do Pro Gear Halfway to Hell?
Oh yeah, did you want to show that?
Yeah, loading.
So this game is interesting. A few years ago, this group made 5 cartridges of this, and it's basically a new game built on top of Pro Gear. They called it Halfway to Hell. They made 5 carts. And then what's cool is after they were done, they released it for MAME, and they even made a custom version for DarkSoft Kit. Maybe because I emailed them about it. So we've got it now, and now that project is completely gone. They've disappeared. The ROMs are gone and everything. So it's listed in the packs, but it was cool of them to do because otherwise the game would be lost, you know.
Yeah.
And it is, I think they took Pro Gear and they upped the difficulty in some ways, so you might not get too far into it. I didn't get very far the few times I played it, but it's just a cool thing. Like, hacks and things for arcade equipment are very rare, and you just don't see very many. It's really hard to do, and especially something that's this big. I've started collecting hacks now from the forums for things like CPS2, which I think you saw my set for that. A few others. Unfortunately, for CPS2, what's nice is that they all work on real hardware. MVS hacks are kind of like maybe 25% work on real hardware, and the other 75% are broken because people were making them for MAME or something.
Oh, really? I don't know. The only hacks I use are the ones that are in your pack.
I have like the world's largest collection of Neo Geo hacks and homebrew just through the years that I've compiled, like going back 15 years. Almost none of it works on real hardware. Like King of Fighters, there was a huge Japanese King of Fighters hacking scene. None of it. I mean, none of it works on real hardware. So they were all doing it for MAME or something.
I appreciate hacks for software only, but there is just something about being able to play it on original hardware.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Pro Gear. Highway. Wow. So I'm assuming don't get hit by those bubbles? That's a little ridiculous.
Correct. Yeah, it's bullet hell.
That's not even realistic. I mean, I don't mean realistic like this is a flight sim. I mean, like, who could realistically play through this and not get hit?
Pro Gear people. Do you get a charge when you let go of the firing?
Yeah. If you let go, you get the bigger, but if you hold it down, you get that.
Yeah, so this is Pro Gear. So Halfway to Hell, it's like Pro Gear is already pretty hard. and then Halfway to Hell is like even harder. So I didn't mean to throw you into the fire here.
Well, you know,
but
this might work out, because maybe we should do Pro Gear right after this, and maybe if I cut my
It'll
teeth
be
on
like
this, it'll be
putting-
easier.
There you go.
Like that? Come on. Get out of here with that. The first level of a game.
Ooh, Beast said this was made by Cave and published by Capcom. Interesting.
Oh.
You know, now that he says that, it makes sense.
Beast also said, check out Alien vs. Predator, which we absolutely will at some point. I'm not going to beat that game, but, yeah, I'm going to go to regular Pro Gear. I'm not going to beat that game, but I'm certainly going to try it. Hey, Dave's here. What's up, dude? Pro Gear US. All right. Flash writing again. Sorry, it's going to take a little while, but it's actually not too bad. So, yeah, Alex, no continues either. That's it. I pumped in a bunch of quarters, but it's I guess the game was meant to be 1 PP'd.
It's brutal. It's so mean.
I think it's...
Yeah,
Go ahead, sorry.
shoot 'em up people who don't have access to a CPS2 are really going to like this. There's like 5 or 6 really good shoot 'em ups, and then plus you have Halfway to Hell.
Thanks for the super chat, Chris. Much appreciated. One YouTube series I think you'd enjoy is Red Hot Sonics, but it does work on real hardware, where he tests various Sonic hacks on real hardware. That does sound pretty neat. Is there like one definitive Sonic hack? Because there's a couple of Super Metroid ones that I like. There aren't really many Link to the Past ones. So are there like really good Sonic hacks?
I like the Mega Mix, Sonic Mega Mix,
Okay.
where like they'll take, or like there's one where they take the Sonic CD platform and they've rebuilt all of the original Sonic games on it. Kind of almost like Super Mario All-Stars. I think those are cool.
I like that. I like that.
I like the Sonic hacking community because it's very meta. there are just like, it's like the hacks are self-aware of how ridiculous they are in the Sonic community. Because for such a long time, you know, it was like Sonic was like baby's first hack game, and you just got so much crap for it.
All right, real Pro Gear.
So you've got Crazy Bus Sonic, where you play as just a bus. Things like that.
That's kind of funny. Aaron Welsh, do you have any comment on all of the sexual energy that Voltar throws your way during his streams? Yes. Beast says Dimahoo as well, so we'll absolutely get to it. I'm not sure if I've ever played that one.
Oh, it's really cool. The power-ups are like food related. There's Dimahoo, Eco Fighters is good, Gigawing is awesome. That's on Dreamcast, where most people have played it. And Mars Matrix is on Dreamcast too. It's pretty awesome. These are just like, it's like this was the end of 2D, and this was the most, you know, one of the most powerful platforms for it. That's why I like CPS2 and PGM. It's like they were at that tail end of 2D, and so they just had so much sheer power for it. You've got giant sprites, you know, and millions of things on screen at once.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do this again in a month or so with PGM. I just need to borrow all the games, because there's no multi, right?
Yeah, there's no multi. Can't even, I mean, you can't repro most of the games, because every game has its own ARM processor on it, basically, and it's encrypted. Although Tim is working on that, and he's found a way around it for Demon Front.
You know, I'm sure he'd let me borrow all his games, but he lives so far away, it would cost so much, and there's so much risk that I would never want to do it.
Yeah.
Do we know anybody in the U.S. with
have
a bunch of games? I know you have some. I think Beast has a couple too, right?
I have probably 20. I have a pretty awesome collection.
Of PGM games?
I also have... Yeah, I collect PGM. It's one of the few systems I collect for.
Well, heck, maybe we do the opposite. Maybe we do
games.
you stream your PGM and just let me jump on and just talk shit.
Yeah, we could do that. I did have a bad. I sent off my Virtual Boy flash cart and some stuff to someone, and it never got back to me. Unfortunately, the mail lost
that's
it.
horrible.
So I am a little scared about sending like a big collection of PGM games. But maybe we could do the reverse sometime. Yeah, you come on. Actually, I don't know if you got one of these. I got a RetroTink 5X Pro here.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mike Chi, the other day, I modified his Neo Geo MVS for him, and when he came to pick it up, he gave me this funny PCB in a box. And he told me to open it.
Yep,
later.
never seen that before.
I thought it was going to be a Raspberry Pi.
Why would it be a Raspberry Pi from Mike?
That's our inside
Okay.
joke.
Oh, yeah. Never mind, I get it.
Yeah, but maybe I could, if he'll allow me, try that with the PGM. Can't remember if the PGM has a tricky video signal.
I may or may not have tested that on something that I don't have, and it worked fine. So this right here was the only part right here that I died at every time. I ended up playing this game a lot when I was testing the CPSHDMI, and no matter what, like this one little spot, there was just so many bullets I could never dodge them, and I was trying to look for a pattern, or I was trying to look for a spot and where to go, and there was nothing. I gotta ask Carsey, because he can see patterns that I can't see, and I'm wondering if even he can do it, or if he's probably just gonna be like, oh yeah, this is one of these arcade things where like you're gonna die no matter what. The other thing that's interesting about these controls too is when moving is slower when you're shooting. So if you want to dodge, you have to stop shooting.
Yeah, that's a cave thing.
It's not bad. It's just
it allows you like to make your maneuvers a little better, I guess. If you're trying to do something fine and then you let go to get out of the way.
Ooh.
Let's see what I say. Oh, Beast said the RetroTink 5X Pro works with Neo Geo timings. That's good. So that probably means it works with anything.
There's a lot involved in that.
Destiny and Stadium Arts are stoked to get one, and so is Alex.
Nice.
William Guile said, you are meant to go into the configuration menu and turn on button 3 autofire to play this game properly.
Really?
That's probably a good tip.
If I go into the config menu, don't I need a controller plugged into the second port to exit? Or am I thinking of a different arcade platform?
I don't know. I haven't really messed with the menus much actually on CPS2 because I don't think they stick if you're using the multi.
I don't think they do either, yeah. That's going to be an advantage of the Mister for sure. Alright. I'll go into the menu, and if I can't get out, then I'm just going to play a different game. But if I can, then we'll see. Oh good, it's coming through there too. So, input.
William Guile said, no, you just need the test button. Okay.
So there is only 3 buttons on here. Okay. How do I get out, though? William?
Maybe hit the test button again?
Nope.
Firebrand X is here.
Hey, what's up,
nice
dude?
Nice bullet hell game.
No, we're not getting out of this. Oh, I guess we are. Okay. So output. I don't know what. There's got to be a multi-button combination to exit this. Configuration.
You know, you had me on to probably answer these kind of questions, but I got nothing.
Shoot type, 2 shoots, 1, 2. Alright. Easy to hard. Rapid fire used shot 3. There we go. Save and exit. Exit, and we got Pro Gear. Alright, awesome. I'm going to try this again just for that, and then we'll move on to another game. But I love this one, so I definitely want to give it a few more minutes. Hey, Ronnie's here. What's up, dude?
Hey man,
I was actually just
got the
talking.
RetroRGB writers in the
Hell
house.
yeah! I was just talking with Renee about doing music stuff. And I was like, well, I know a fucking awesome bassist, so we're good to go. So I think Ronnie, you'll be bothered in the future. Actually, not even bothered. Some of the projects that you and I talked about, now we have a badass lead guitarist to do some solos on it. Because I can do lead, but I love rhythm, and not many people could play rhythm like me, and Renee could play lead way better than me. So I think that would just be a much better fit.
I can be your backup bass player.
Do you play metal stuff?
No.
I was gonna say I would have mentioned your name anyway, but I thought you weren't into the crazy metal stuff.
Oh, it's not that I'm not into it. I don't know. I don't play it. I have some big muffs that are supposedly like for metal bass and stuff, but I actually would think I would, if I did play metal bass, I would not use effects anyways.
Yeah,
you know?
Some do and some don't. Like Peter from In Flames usually does, and it fits their music. But most other metal bassists don't really use too many fuzz pedals or anything like that. Peter Steele, obviously, but that's different. Typo Negative is one big.
It'd be
fuzz.
like stepping on the toes of the guitarist once you get into bass effects sometimes.
It's funny because I maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I
range.
think I heard an interview with Peter Steele from a million years ago where he was like, I actually was going to be a guitarist, but I'm just so big it made more sense to play bass. So that explains a lot.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about the auto fire here?
It's certainly easier on my hands, that's for sure. I'm really glad I know about it, and I think I will be setting this as default when the CPS2 core comes out. Thank you very much for that tip, by the way. I would have never thought to look for that. I mean, I'm still not great at the damn game, but I still like it, so...
Yeah, so, and if people don't know, there is a CPS1 core as well, and it's CPS 1.5 now, which was sort of like a souped up CPS1. And both of those are direct precursors to the CPS2, which is why this has worked so well for Jotego to work on. CPS1 is really impressive too. I don't have a multi for that, do you?
No, there was one, but it's impossible to get. I think the person that sells it doesn't want to sell out of their own country, so
yeah, the French.
I don't know if that's
the
same person I worked with before, but I didn't have a very great experience, so I probably wouldn't buy anything. If it's the same person, we're talking 4 years ago now, so
it probably is. I had a bad experience with CPS1 hardware, and apparently I'm not the only one. It was just not reliable. You've got problems like chip rot on the main special chip, which just happens, so it'll just rot from the inside out, basically. That's what happened to mine. And it's unfixable without donors, and there are no donors now. So I had Street Fighter 2 World Warrior, and I bought it broken, then I reflowed that special chip and it worked for 6 months, and then it died permanently, and I was like, I'm done with CPS1.
Loading again?
And luckily we've got that core now, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't mind. There is, I'm like you, there's certain arcade hardware that they can bury with me. But then there's some that I'm not really that tied to, and I won't mind selling it. I sold my Double Dragon board when the core came out, and that's basically paid for everything I've put into Mister since day one, just selling that one
That's
board.
funny.
I still need to sell Double Dragon 2 and 3, and what else have I sold? Oh, I sold a spare NES the other day. I'm trying to just start to minimalize a little bit, There's no reason that someone needs 3 Nintendo NES.
I mean, I certainly do for my testing. If it were up to me, I would never sell anything. I would keep all of it. It's not if anybody sees me sell anything, it's either because I have 3 or it's because I gotta thin it out and use money for something like
I have
payment.
9 Saturns.
That's pretty funny.
And I don't need those. I am actually I'm probably gonna sell my STV kit, Sega STV.
Oh.
which is the Saturn platform. I have the DarkSoft kit for that.
Yeah, I saw when they were talking about potentially working on a Saturn core. Within like 2 seconds, somebody was like, "Are you gonna do STV too?" I'm like, "Will you just let them work work on something? Don't follow a message about a new project with another project." Like, ugh. But couple things. Dave says that he has a CPS1 Multi from China to hold him off until the DarkSoft comes out. That's pretty cool. I actually didn't know there were some of those. Stephen Faust said, "What do you use amp-wise for rhythm?" Well, I'll explain that while I flip this over. I used to be the guy that wanted everything digital and I wanted to program everything in until the Laney Ironheart came out, and I loved that one. But then the EVH 5150, I have the combo version of that, but I've also played the stack. Like that, I don't need anything else. When I plug my guitar into that, I set the dials. That's me. That's what I sound like. So it's kind of funny. My entire life, like I chased that sound, and I got, that's all it was. That's all I needed. And Andy W said, watching Typo Negative videos the other night. Which ones? Love that band. I've seen them live like, I don't know, 7 times or something like that before he died. I was so bummed when he did.
Wow. Yeah, I'm like an all analog guy for bass for sure. I used to play, I had a 60s Ampeg SVT that I restored, and I still have a 65 Trainer YBA1. But nowadays, like, because I don't have room for any of that, I just use analog pedals, tube pedals mostly, into a solid state power amp.
Oh, yeah?
Which to me is like, it's the best of both worlds, because I can actually put headphones on and like, listen. You can't do that with a tube amp.
No, these days, I mean, that's the amp that I
headphones.
played when I was still gigging live, but I use a Line 6, the one that just came out that's like $450, and it's perfectly mediocre. It sounds close enough.
I used to have a really nice Line 6 DI pedal that I loved, and sound people loved it.
I've never played this game before. This looks really cool.
Yeah, you're gonna like it.
I love the look of a PVM on its side, by the way. I know you can't really see that in the video, but this just looks so cool. It's so curved.
Nice. Yeah, so the power-ups in this game are awesome. You'll see. You've got like, I think there's like pizza and pork chops and sushi and stuff.
And do you know if there's more than one button? Like, I'm assuming button 2 is like special, but is it going to be like the other one where there's a third button function?
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe somebody can comment in the chat on that.
The third button does seem to do something with auto fire. This is the third button.
Pyron approves of this.
Nice. Yeah, this is the third button just being held down. Second button.
You are powered up already.
And this is first button, which... Yeah, I don't know the difference. Right. Like, this is...
Beast said shot and bomb, that's it.
Well, then what's the third one for? If this is button 3. Do you think that setting couldn't have transferred over? It's a different game.
Yeah, I don't think it would have, but I don't really know.
Well, I'm holding button 3 because this seems to be cool.
It might have that by default on this game or something. Man, I love these dragons.
Giant Turtle Buster, the Bursticle. Or Burst Turtle? Which one? I don't know which one it was, but I like it both.
Bust Turtle.
I think this is probably one where charging might be.
Yeah, this is a system that people are going to be blown away by because, I mean, like, yeah, Neo Geo is incredible, but I think people are generally familiar with it. CPS2, outside of the stuff that came out on Saturn or whatever that got ported, Street Fighters, like, yeah, like, no one is going to have seen Dimahoo unless they're really into the arcade stuff, for the most part.
The stereo audio effects in this are insane. I love it.
Mark Dell is here. He says, hey, party people.
Hey.
Turtle destroyed.
I'm going to keep going. I stink at all these games, but, I always use the...
Well, it's your first playthrough, and you're playing live,
True.
so I don't think anybody should have any expectations in that situation.
Well, still, I always use the analogy and love it that, you could play a game, and you can even play against somebody who's amazing and still have a good time. You can't really do that with like MMA or football or, you know, heck, even like tennis or something. You go up against a good tennis player and you don't even get a shot in. But like you could have a decent time if you stink at video games, and that's pretty much every live stream I do.
I have a funny tennis story. So when I first met my father-in-law, he like plays tennis. And I was like, I play tennis because I played tennis in 5th grade. And so like I went to his club and I was like gonna play with him, and it was like you just said, like I couldn't return the tennis ball. He just like gave up after like 30 minutes. Like I just couldn't I couldn't do anything. Apparently tennis isn't something you remember, and an amateur can't just play against a pro, like you said.
Yeah, that's funny. Actually, my buddy Greg, he is like a born teacher, and he's like, I mean, if a really good gym teacher was a job that paid a lot, that's what he would do, because he's just so good at teaching people sports. And he always, like, he would do things like we'd go out, and I hadn't played tennis in a million years, and he played like left-handed, and he would always like get just good enough to beat me, but not enough to kill me. And it was fun for both of us, because he would like try new things and practice new techniques, and like I would just be, you know, trying to hit the ball. But he was always really, really good at that. We would play a bunch of sports together, you know, basketball, tennis, stuff like that. Just, you know, and he would always make it fun and teach me how to get better. But, you know, it was never about winning, because I couldn't. But that's not what the experience was. It's usually like that when I play people like Beast and Arturo, except that one time at an expo a couple years ago, I lined everybody up and whooped everybody's ass at MK1. That actually happened. And I feel like I could never play them again in that game. I don't think I'll ever do that again.
Yeah, just stop while you're ahead. Yeah.
Alright, so let me check out the settings of this game. And
this game has kind of a metal feel. What do you think about that?
Definitely.
Doesn't it looks like I don't know, like the ideal metal universe.
Oh, that's cool. A good spot, by the way. Not all games can do that.
That will be handy.
One loop. I'm not going to turn on Invincible. That's
Invincible. That's a nice
a little
option.
too far for me. Let me just test. There is. Yeah, only 3 buttons. I like it. By the way, do you see, I don't know if it's cut off in the menu, but in there it says, to exit, 1 player start and shot 1. That must have been what the other game needed as well. And it just, but
they just didn't tell you.
Have some courtesy, arcade game makers. Alright, let me try it one more time in super easy mode.
And so, Bob, you're using my setup, right?
What do you mean by your setup?
My pack list for the CPS2. Yes. And people don't know, so originally this list was the base. There's three packs. There's the base pack, the hacks add-on, and then the MAME complete hack or pack. The base pack has 1 copy of each game, defaulting to the best tournament or English version of the game. And that's the one that most people are going to want. And then you can add the hacks on. The MAME add-on is for someone who wants, you know, like 20 revisions of every game, which most people don't want because you're scrolling through it on your little LCD.
So just to put that into perspective, that little LCD screen I keep holding up is obviously how you select the game, but you have to go through each game one at a time. There is no like skip by page or anything like that. So if you wanted to do the full MAME set, like there were a few times where I just sat there for like a solid minute or two just to find the game that I wanted. So I'm really glad I redid just the basic pack.
And I also redid every single name file in the pack so that, except for Pro Gear Halfway to Hell is the only one that scrolls. And so that makes it, if you notice, they're all 16 characters. That's why they're all kind of shortened names. And that makes it easier so when you're flipping through the LCD, when it starts scrolling, it makes it horrible. But actually, I worked with Arturo and Beast, I think, to make this is the base pack became the competition pack now, is what I call it, because all of the ROMs for every game are the competition versions. So if it's a Street Fighter Alpha or whatever, you're playing the competition version of it.
That is really handy.
So that there's no guessing, because they use specific revisions, like they want to use the 0999854 or something. So I did rename the base pack the competition edition, I think 2 years ago, maybe, or a year ago.
I can't even begin to tell you, and I've said this a million times before, so it's, like, it's nothing to do with us being friends or you just being on the stream. Like, I've said it a million times. Like, the work you've done on these packs has changed the way people approach retro gaming, because people actually can find the things that they're looking for now. And I distinctly remember telling Scott about you, cousin Scott, and having to be like, yeah, no, I already kind of have a folder with all the games I like in it. And I'm like, yeah, not like this, man. And he's like, nah, it's fine. And I happened to, like, borrow his console to do another mod on it anyway, and I gave it back to him, and I was like, look, I saved your configuration in the folder called Scott, but I dropped all of Smoke stuff on the root of the card. Just shut up and try it. And a couple days later, I get a text from him like, hey, you weren't kidding, huh?
That's awesome. Yeah, it's been a long time, that I've been doing it now. I think 11 years is my estimate.
Wow.
Maybe even more. I'm almost afraid to look. But you were my you were my vampire maker on YouTube.
Oh, yeah?
Because you were really the only person who gave a crap about the packs, a few years ago. Is that 4 years ago, maybe
respectfully, I think I might have been the only one with a voice that gave a crap, because a lot of people loved your work.
I saw a lot of people using it in videos, but I never really got mentioned.
Oh, well, that's fucked up.
And so you had me on a stream, and I still see it. You had me on a stream, and that was the first time I ever went on YouTube, and I've just sort of stuck with it a little bit.
Yeah, well, we're definitely glad you did.
But since then, the packs have gone open source, and now it's not just me. Like, that's the thing, is a lot of people think it's just me because they're called the Smokemonster packs. I mean, I've considered renaming them and everything. There are like hundreds of contributors now. And just like since it went open source, there have been thousands of issues and fixes and things. So it's a bigger research project now than when I did it. And if people don't know, I don't actually share ROMs or anything. I share hash databases that describe ROMs and along with folder hierarchies where the ROMs go and stuff, and then we have scripts to organize your own ROMs. So you dump all of your stuff into a folder, run the organizer on it, and it will output a pack on the other side.
Yeah.
Basically.
I keep wanting to make a video on how to do that, and then I'm just like, with respect, of course, there are so many videos that I've already started that I'm like, okay, there's no time limit on this. There's no release date. There's nothing else. So let me just stop making this one, and I'll work on this product that's going to be released on Friday so I can have a launch day video for people to understand what it is. And all right, let me get back to that other video. And, I get another 5 hours into it, and it's like, oh, crap, this new product just came out. Let me make sure to get the info out for people. And it's kind of funny. So I will do that at some point.
Well, I feel you. I mean, consider it this way. I've never done a video on how to use them. I ain't touching that with a 10-foot pole. Like, there are actually tools that make it a lot easier, though. There's GUIs now.
Yeah.
That will run in Windows. So, yeah, someone will do a video. I wouldn't recommend it to you. If you want to, that'd be great. But like, you're gonna have to support it after that is the problem.
I'm fine.
That's how I look at things.
Let me put it back horizontal. Matt Hargett, thank you so much for the super chat. Fantastic info in the stream. I appreciate both your work a lot. Can you add links to referenced ROM hacks in the description afterwards? Yeah, we should go and talk about our ROM hacks.
The GitHub project.
Absolutely. And Mark Dell says, sorry, Smokemonster, the packs are forever. You might need to change your own name instead of changing the packs.
I know.
I did that. Like, I keep going back and forth with what to do about the name RetroRGB, because so many people know me by that, but RetroRGB is the site and all the work we do. It's not me. But there's 10 years of tweets of me acting like an asshole under RetroRGB. So, like, I don't know what the right answer is for that.
Well, Bob, I use the RetroRGB cables.
Oh, yeah.
How often do you get that?
All the time. My favorite is, like, a lot of people make the mistake because, there's retro in a lot of things named nowadays. So it's totally cool. That's fine. But people think I sell the cables. People think I sell the retro tank, whatever else. People think retro USB is me. And that's fine. I never get upset about that. But it's the people that first get really pissed with me. And then on top of that, when I tell them, like, hey, just because we have retro in the name, it's not the same thing. Like, you're going to have to contact them. When they blame me, like, well, the links are on your site, so it's your responsibility to support the product. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck telling any blog that. So that's the only thing that always gets me, like, you're a moron.
Well, you need to switch to horizontal.
Oh, wait, look at that. I totally forgot. I switched my main thing, but not that. Sorry, everybody. I get excited.
So now here's one of the big feature games for CPS2 outside of the Street Fighter games. And this is a game that never had a home port at all. Not even like no Xbox Live Arcade, nothing. Like we never got this incredible Alien vs. Predator game. Probably because of IP issues, I'm guessing.
So who's the best player to play on this? And I guess I'm back with it. Sorry, I'm looking at the stream and not in real time. But yeah, who's the best player to play? And on top of that, like, is there any tricks? Like Beast taught me a trick about Streets of Rage where you hit the button along with the music. If you ever get stuck in like a busy part or something like that. Like, are there any tricks to this?
Someone will let you know.
Yeah, Beast, you still here?
We actually might get, we will get an Aliens, the arcade game as well, which I have the PCB of. That's the Konami, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles platform that someone is working on. And Aliens is the game that they're targeting for that. So we could have Alien vs. Predator and Aliens eventually.
That would be pretty neat. I bought the Simpsons Arcade PC because one of my best friends really likes it. I think we only played it once. But yeah,
that's the one big hole. I collect Konami arcade games, and I missed the boat on Simpsons. I mean, you're talking... That's a working Simpsons now. It's probably a $500 game or more.
I paid a pretty penny, but I don't think
I saw broken ones going for $300 a few years ago when I last looked, and I was like, yeah, screw that.
All right. Predator Hunter is the best character, so when I inevitably die in the next minute, I will go back and switch. Also, suggestions for the next game. And the next time I have to load a new game, I'm going to go switch to beer because I'm out of vodka.
I can grab a beer too, actually. This coffee is wearing off on me.
Yeah, go for it.
But that Aliens game could lead to all of the big Konami games like X-Men, Turtles, all of those. It'd have to be heavily modified, but they're all basically sort of similar.
That would be pretty cool.
It's not like Neo Geo or CPS2 where they're all the exact same thing, though, unfortunately.
Simpsons, for me, like, that's one of those games that I would prefer on Mister, because that Simpsons board is a little finicky sometimes, and while I love the game, like, and while accuracy of a lot of games is super important to me, like, sometimes beat-em-up games are just fun. You don't, if it's not perfectly accurate, it doesn't really take away from it, at least for me. But, so yeah, I don't know, maybe we'll trade or something.
I convinced myself not to buy Simpsons because I was like, well, there's an Xbox Live Arcade port of it that's actually okay. It's pretty good. And I was like, well, I'll just play this. Like, it's good enough. Like you said, like, it's a beat 'em up. It's a 40-minute game or whatever.
Yeah. Well, not to rub it in, but I also have the one with the 2-player hacked ROM, so you don't need 4 players in order to access all characters.
Ooh.
So
I did that for my X-Men and Sunset Riders.
Ah.
Or no, it's not Sunset Riders. It's 3-player to 2-player, something like that. I sold Sunset Riders a long time ago.
When I first got the CPS2 Multi, before the HDMI kit was even installed in this, that same friend who loves The Simpsons came over, and we started playing this because I was like, she showed up right as I had this hooked up to the D32, and she's like, "What is all of this?" Like, she knew the monitor I had, but she never saw the arcade board and all of that. So I explained it, and she's like, well, you can't explain it without playing it. Like, let's do this. So we, like, I Googled a list of the games, and she was like, oh, Alien versus Predator. So we played through the whole thing. Obviously, we used like $100 worth of virtual quarters, but we made through the whole thing, and it was a ton of fun. I'm pretty sure I put pictures up on social media.
Nice. Firebrand X says his brother wants to donate his Primal Rage board for Mr. Research. That actually would be a really good one to donate, because Primal Rage has encryption on it that has never been cracked, and there's never been a perfect home port of it. So I don't know if that's something that you could do with FPGA, but if anybody can do it, it's probably the Mr. people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a few people have contacted me about that, and it's a little over my head on which boards you could do stuff like that with, but there were some things like Jose was talking specifically about reverse engineering one very specific chip on the CPS2, so that people who want to, you might be able to have a FPGA recreation for original hardware, meaning like one of those $5 FPGAs, not something like the Mister. So I actually think somebody like Furtech might be willing to decap it, and Loic, am I saying his name wrong? Loic Petit?
Yeah, I always say Loic Petit, but yeah, it probably is Loic,
Yeah,
actually. That you say.
Yeah, if it's French, it's probably the way I'm saying it, but I'm still probably saying it wrong. But yeah, I think those two, that's a dynamic duo right there. I think they might be able to do it. But just something like, here's my arcade board, could you reverse engineer it? I think it's, you know, it would take a Jotego to be able to actually do that. And, you know, obviously he only does the stuff that he's into, because you gotta love this stuff in order to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, the only problem I would see with Primal Rage is, like, it's a single game, which, you know, it'd be worth it, but it's a relatively complex game. It's a huge arcade PCB. I used to have that, actually. I did a full restart on a Primal Rage. The thing weighs about 50 pounds. It's bolted to a gigantic metal plate, and it's a double PCB. I mean, the thing is huge PCB. So it would be, I'm sure, a lot of work just to get one game, or two games, I guess. Wasn't Primal Rage 2 on the same hardware or something?
I think.
The one they have at Galloping Ghost. So it might, I mean, the problem is not the lack of PCBs. I think Jotego has said that to people before, is he's had like offers of everything, basically, like anything he wants. I even said that at the beginning. I was like, well, I have 60 arcade PCBs. You're welcome to all of them, and I've never had a single FPGA person take me up on them, because they aren't missing the PCBs, they're missing the time to do it. Mark Dell mentioned WrestleFest. I have that PCB. WWF.
I also, too, for my collection, like, I want to make sure that I hold on to stuff that I could absolutely use for all future research and testing. Like, as much as it kind of killed me, I traded my mini MVS to an awesome dude. I don't want to call him out. I don't know if he wants to talk about it publicly, so I'll just say a friend. I traded for an AES and an original controller and an RGB cable, because a lot of the videos I've been getting Neo Geo footage of, it's like perfect, because I'm using one of Tien's designs. So it's like, I'm wondering if that's a fair representation of Neo Geo, because it's like, you know, I might as well be using the HDMI output of the Mister. It's so good. So let me get an AES in order to do that. So I think some of my arcade boards, as they're becoming cores, while I would want to keep them forever, I think I'm going to trade them for stuff that I could just constantly use, both for footage and for testing and captures and everything else.
Yeah. My long-term goal, because I'm not RetroRGB, you know, I want to get down to just like 10 arcade games, really. Like, I have way too many. I collected I got in when the getting was good, and I got too much.
Well, how about this, Smoke? If I ever win the lottery, I swear to you, I'll buy all of your stuff off of you for 10% over market value, and fly you out to help me use it all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll just get a shipping cube, and I'll just set it all in there for you.
There you go.
But yeah, like I mentioned, Double Dragon 2 and 3, I still have to sell. It's like, I don't even like those games. I hate Double Dragon 3. It's awful. Like, why do I own that? because I got a good deal on it. You know, like you see a good deal, you can't pass it up.
Yeah.
I like Double Dragon, the original. It's just when I finally got the arcade game, it was not the way I remembered it. Basically, all the slowdown, like the NES version, is probably better. But we also have the arcade, the Mr. Core, so it's like I'm not even missing anything.
You know, one thing I would love to see on the Mister, and I know the Mister team really hates when I say, "Hey, you know what would be cool," but all right, I'll let this count down, and then I'll try the other character, and then we'll switch to another game. But one of the things I always would really like to see is auto boot to last game. So doesn't matter what core, doesn't matter anything. Like when you turn on the Mister, it immediately boots into that last game. And then of course, if you want, you know, just hit the button combo, go into the menu, or disable it or whatever. But I think especially for people using it in arcade machines, that would be a really fun thing to help. Because you know,
you can do that with arcade cores.
Can you? No, when you
can set it to boot straight to a core.
Even so, when you first power the Mister on from completely off, it does do that.
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Yeah, you can do that. They added that for someone maybe a year ago for cabinets, basically, so that you could just replace. You put a Mister in there as a replacement for the game.
That is really cool. Okay, so they said. All right, so Predator Hunter specifically was the player I was supposed to use, right?
Yeah.
All right, and everybody listening, call out the next game. Smoke, if you want to, I want to try to pay attention to not play like crap.
You could try. I'll let people call it.
And have your backups too, in case nobody calls a game that we want to play.
Yeah, so we haven't talked about Sword yet and all the stuff he's been up to. You just covered the 5x scaling, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Somebody messaged me the other day, like, I know they were well intended, but they basically were like, "You need to retweet me because I said everybody should follow Sword's Patreon," and I was polite, but I wanted to be like, that is absolutely not how I roll. I will totally pimp Sorg out because he deserves it, but I'm doing it my way. I'm not retweeting a random tweet. So I did. Like, I was planning on doing it anyway, actually, when they asked me. I already had that whole, like, thank you so much for 5x, everybody remember how cool Sorg is thing in my head. So, yeah, I hope if anybody watched last week's podcast, I meant every word of that. I absolutely appreciate all of the work that he does. And that wasn't like, my praise wasn't a quote-unquote reward for 5x. You know, somebody said that too, because people have nothing better to do than shit on me. But, yeah, it was just my reminder that all of the work that he does is pretty awesome.
God, that's a horrible thing to say. I hate people.
It is what it is, man. There's 90% awesome people. The rest are just louder, which is why they stand out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so if people don't know, because there's 270 people watching right now. I'm sure not everybody knows all about Mister, but the Mister project, the main person behind the whole thing is Sorg, Alexei. I always pronounce his last name wrong. Alexei. He's in Russia.
Well, he's in Taiwan.
He's
right?
basically working. Oh yeah, that's right. He's Russian. He lives in Taiwan. Yeah, and he works like full time on Mister stuff, and he's just doing all of the back end stuff. He's ported a ton of cores. He fixes and then he'll add features here and there, major features usually, and he also like fixes things. So if you have a core that's like, you know, halfway there, Amiga or something like that, Sorg, when he's got his eyes on it, he'll go in and the thing will come out being, you know, absolutely perfect. So, and if people want to support Mister, you basically should support Sorg.
Keep going with this, please. Smoke. I'm gonna grab a beer.
Yeah. Did you say you want to grab a beer? And let's see. Oh, Mark Dell said, rather than complain or ask, I just lost the comment, about how much I want Turtles Arcade, is there anything I can do to help that happen? Well, actually, that Aliens core, once it's done, is going to be the basis for basically a Konami core. And so once we have that, then Turtles. Then I don't know if R&D MKN2, who does the who's working on the Aliens core. I don't know if he plans to do the other Konami games, but once that Aliens core is done, games like Turtles Arcade will be possible with tweaking. Turtles, Turtles 2, X-Men, Simpsons, games like that. Ooh, Milk Stout Nitro.
Yep.
Look at that pour.
There you go.
That's a ballsy pour.
Believe me,
I just knew it was right
I had
size.
to drink many of those before I realized that was safe to do. That was not my first time doing it. I would never have done that on first pour.
Yeah, Sunset Riders as well. Google bought me.
So Mark
right, I'm
Dell
gonna go
said
grab a
something.
big
Yeah,
soul
do
one
your
sec.
thing while I start this out. Mark Dell said, "I feel bad that I take from the Mr. community. I want to give back somehow." Well, first of all, that's what they want. I mean, they spend their time doing these awesome things so that people like us could enjoy them. So just using them and enjoying them is awesome. That alone is great. But if you have the ability to, just look up some of their Patreons and hit them up for the smallest amount. Because don't forget, with Patreon stuff, this is one of the rare moments where quantity really matters most. Like, if you give the lowest amount and tell all your friends, and you know the ones who use it do too, that really makes a giant difference. And it's not, it's not just about money. It's not like these Mr. developers are all driving Bentleys and, going to their $1 million houses. It just allows them to buy equipment they need. And some of the bigger ones, I mean, who knows? Maybe they would be able to switch to doing it full time if people supported. And I also want to shout out Jotego for a lot of the work that he does that just improves his previous course. And sorry for sounding like a broken record for people that have heard me say this, but I just think it's absolutely awesome that sometimes he'll start working on something new and then go, you know what? I think I found something that could improve my older stuff, so I'm going to put this on pause and go back and make 3 of my older cores even more accurate than they already were. Like, that's the type of stuff that just, that's a real nerd right there. That's a hardcore nerd. I love it.
And the stuff he's doing, he's like, well, I just completely rebuilt this chip in cycle-accurate form. And it doesn't, you won't really notice anything, though.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And then he'll go back and add it into every game.
I feel like I should start a Patreon for Risha just for the questions that I ask her alone.
Yeah.
It's probably, there hasn't been a week that's gone by where I'm like, hey, sorry to bother you again, but yeah, I hopefully could supply enough beer that we might maybe someday be able to call it even. She's in New York, so I actually get the luxury of hanging out with her like in real life. Unfortunately, not much after lockdown, but definitely better than nothing.
So I've got an Ayinger Dunkel Bavarian Dark Lager.
Nice.
Since we're drinking fancy stuff. I don't have the balls to do that pour that Bob did, though.
I am a professional.
Oh, nothing like day drinking. I mean, it's only 2 p.m. here. I guess it's not that early.
A lot of people joke, but I don't really day drink that often. But when I do, it's really only been on live streams in the past over a year now. Because occasionally some people would come in for like a celebration, and I guess you could call football day drinking, but that's football. That's just awesome in itself. But yeah, it's usually live streamed for me with Jimmy Hoppa because, my 8 a.m. is his 9 p.m. So
I just drank with Jimmy the other night. I was on a Historic Nerd stream. Oh, I made some bad decisions, though.
I jumped on one of your guys' streams one night didn't I? I was shit-faced. I shouldn't have been in public.
A few weeks ago, yeah. So I drank half a bottle of cheap port, one of these gigantic Bavarian beers, and then I drank scotch. And I was fine, but I woke up the next morning and my stomach felt like it was paint thinner. It was just like pure acid. No hangover, but yeah, my tummy was not good that day.
So all the bullets that were coming out of that last boss there, so nice. Fair. Like, there was a lot, and it was challenging, but you could find the pattern and go right through it. This is my favorite type of shooting game, where it's like, it's hard, but if you pay attention and you learn some patterns, you could get through the game.
Lucian Popescu asked if there's a Mortal Kombat 2 core on the horizon. Jotego has mentioned interest in Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure he tweeted about that at least once, or maybe it was a Patreon update.
I certainly don't want to talk about anything that's not in development yet, because I just don't want to put pressure on people to do stuff. But he has mentioned it.
No, but I mean, yeah. So people have shown interest is the main thing.
What was that
Don't hold your breath.
What was the last name again? Popescu? Are you Romanian, my friend?
Popescu.
I am part Romanian, so I remember our names. I mean, I'm American,
Joseph?
but like because my grandparents, I think my grandparents were first generation, so like they were the first ones born here, but their families all kind of hung out with other families from there that were still coming over. So growing up, whenever I was at my grandparents, I was just around a bunch of Eastern Europeans. So it's funny because while I'm, born and raised in America, I have an upbringing that's very similar to immigrants because of the family members that I lived with growing up and stuff. So it's kind of funny trading stories with people, because anybody that grew up in an Eastern European family has the same stories that I do. It's basically like Big Fat Greek Wedding, but weirder with more unibrows.
My family always told me I was Polish, but I mean, I grew up in Central Illinois, so the only time I saw that was like when we visited Chicago and saw, the whole family in their prime, great grandma there who came over or whatever.
Did she make pierogies?
But oh yeah, pierogies.
Because as a fat guy,
Yeah.
that's obviously how I judge everybody's nationality.
And her daughter, my grandma, did pierogies all the time, and she did all sorts of Polish foods. What was I gonna say? Oh, you won't be proud of this, Bob. So I had Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, the arcade PCBs, but neither one of them had soundboards.
Well, it's challenging.
And I waited for years and years and years trying to find soundboards for them. And every time I saw one pop up, it would cost more than I spent on the boards. And 2 Christmases ago, I sold both of those. But I hung on to my Mortal Kombat clone PCB, which I really like.
I didn't know they had clone PCBs.
Because, yeah, there's a bootleg of the Mortal Kombat PCB, which is so good that you can even put that Mortal Kombat Plus on it.
Oh, wow, really?
And it's cool in that it's set up for JAMA Plus, so you don't need a kick harness for it either. With a 1-wire mod.
Wow.
So that's like my Mortal Kombat thing I kept.
Could you please send me any info on that too? Because I would really like that.
I have a forum thread on the restoration for it. There are people, so if you read up on it, people will tell you that it has some issues, but for my purposes, it did its job. Because I just got tired of waiting. I can't pay $200 for a Mortal Kombat soundboard or whatever.
Yeah. See, I went the opposite.
Mark Dell?
Oh, sorry, you first.
Oh, Mark Dell just super chatted you. $20.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you both so much for what you do for the community, and I love seeing you around in streams. You continue to give even when some people can be really crappy. I truly appreciate you both, and so does the silent majority.
Well, thank you so much. That was a really nice thing for you to say. And I do actually have a thick skin, but sometimes I bitch about it because I'm only human. And most people really are amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate it.
I'm told I have a thick skull.
I just have a giant head. Yeah, I'll continue. This game is awesome. Good call, Beast. Good call.
Good job, Beast. This game is on Dreamcast too, if people have a multi. ODE.
Yeah, when I buy arcade boards, I kind of go from a slightly different approach. And this is such a douchey thing to do, but like I'll find arcade boards that need a little bit of work. Wow, I'm only going to continue once because I think I've hit my thing on it. But I usually pick them up, check with Jose first to make sure it's fixable, and then have him restore it all. Because my thought is, all of these arcade boards are going to need restoration at some point, right? So why not have it fixed and restored at the same time and end up spending the same that I would have on a working board, but now it's restored. So poor Jose always deals with it.
I almost exclusively buy broken arcade stuff because I've just had such a good track record. Most of the time it's not something super difficult. Sometimes it is. But most of the time, it's something relatively simple, or even like it'll be listed as untested, which normally, like in the rest of video game world, untested means broken. But in arcade world, they're so hard to test that a lot of the time it actually just means untested. And I've had so many, like my Double Dragon. They thought it had an audio issue, but it was just that they didn't have negative 5 volt hooked up.
Ah,
Stuff like that. It's the ultimate.
yeah, those are good finds.
Dirty JAMA
I
edges.
switched to Punisher, the CPS 1.5 conversion, while we wait for another suggestion, because I really want I want to see how that compares to the version I've been playing on CPS CPS Mr. Core. Sorry, but any other
Mhm.
suggestions? Fire it up.
I think that so this Punisher conversion is like 90% complete. So there might be a few little quirks here and there.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to get far enough,
There was
but
sort of
if there's quirks,
a
they'll
few
have to be in the first couple levels.
a few years ago, it was like we were all starting to get really excited because there were all of these different projects to convert CPS1 games to CPS2, CPS 1.5 games.
Hmm.
And Punisher came out almost done. I think they did Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and a few others. But then drama started and people started fighting with each other, and then they all just ended in anger. And so we never got any more ports.
That's weird.
But yeah, like you said, Mr. fills in that gap now.
Yeah. Hey, Joel's in the stream. What's up, man? I guess you got Dodon Pachi. That's pretty awesome.
Nice.
I borrowed a stack of
I
stuff
have
from
that.
this dude, and I was like, I feel like I'll be done in a week or two, but you know me, it might end up taking a month. That was like 6 months ago. I'm so sorry. I'll get it back, I promise. If you need it, text me. I'll get it right back to you.
Yeah, PGM, the shoot 'em ups are killer. Those are the 3 games you can clone too, because they were on standalone boards and they're converted to carts.
Am I crazy or is this faster? Or are they punching faster?
I'm not watching. Sometimes like CPS2 speed,
Well,
it might be. I mean, it might be the wrong speed. Who knows? Like I can't remember how. I don't think it was complete.
I mean, this isn't bad, but I just remember I've been playing the Jotego version for
Yeah, the real
a while
thing.
now,
Mhm.
so this definitely feels different. It feels much faster, and I don't know if that's. I would assume that there's something wrong with this one because it's a conversion. Anybody in the chat happen to know this one?
These weren't meant to be like arcade perfect. I don't think.
Oh no, I
they're
think it was just people saying, "Hey, if you
they
already
saw the
have
way
a
to do it.
multi, we could make this work for you, so you could at least experience the game." I'm sorry if they came out wrong. I certainly wasn't shitting on the conversion. I just meant like just from
Yeah,
a
yeah.
nerd point of view, like
No.
here's the difference that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Another big game that never got a home port.
Yeah, beat 'em ups aren't my favorite style of game, but man, this one's always been fun. All right, so what's coming up next after Punisher? Any great suggestions?
Let's see. I agree with Jaganon says Mars Matrix. Awesome shoot 'em up. If you're down.
I'm always down for a good shooter. I'm obviously terrible at them.
Mars Matrix is very impressive.
Out of curiosity, is it
There's
vertical
also Eco
or
Fighters.
horizontal?
That's a good question.
I don't really care, obviously. But...
Horizontal. It's hard to tell if people have their screens wrong in the screenshots.
Yeah.
I think horizontal.
All right, cool.
And then I would recommend Eco Fighters eventually, since that's one that nobody will have heard of, probably.
Absolutely.
Capcom.
You know, it's funny when I was walking home from a friend's house the other day, allegedly a little tipsy, and I slipped a little bit, and I was like, oh wow, I was like, it's like really slippery. It's not snow slippery. It's like, ice slippery. So I'm walking carefully, and there's been many times in my life where I'd hit ice and like my feet would come up in the air, and I'd kind of like do that cartoon character, hover for a second, and then hit the ground, and that was not this. I was just like walking, bang! Just, I was on the ground so quick. And a homeless dude was like 10 feet away, and he's, oh my God, are you okay? I'm sorry. Are you okay? I'm sorry. And I'm like, what are you sorry for? Enjoy the show. Somebody just hit the dirt in front of you. Just laugh with me and move on. You didn't do anything wrong. So yeah, it's hand's still a little bit sore for that. So I don't really want to be picking up big monitors until it heals. But I'm fine. I'm a big meathead, so I'll heal.
Well, I don't even want to tell you. See, I've noticed that since I moved to San Diego, people get really mad when I tell them about the weather here. But it's 77 and sunny out. I'm looking the Pacific Ocean right now. I can see out my window is nice and calm. So I think I'm gonna go for a walk later.
Yeah.
You definitely don't tell that to people in Texas this last week what your weather's like in San Diego.
San Diego's the best weather of any place I've ever been to. Every time I've been there, any time of year.
It is. I thought it was just like a cliche until I moved here, and it really is like always. And it's always like when it's the worst somewhere else, it's the best here too. I've noticed, just to make it even worse for people.
Yeah, I was talking to Porkchop about that the other day because he just moved to a different place, and it's free. He said it was negative 18 degrees out. I was just like, I love the snow in the Northeast where it's like 20 degrees out, not negative 18. Yeah. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, no.
Oh, flamethrower.
Freeze your door handle.
Anytime there's a flamethrower in a game, I am 100% in.
Oh, yeah. Did anyone order fried kraut? You got the classic Capcom fire animation.
So many absolutely amazing games on this platform. I've been having a blast. This was, as far as hanging out goes, I mean, I always have fun doing these live streams, and I really had a lot of fun hanging out with Beast and laughing at some of those 32x CD games. But when it comes to like actually enjoying the games, like these have been some of the most fun games I've played in a while on stream. Although I did, a couple of people have been playfully teasing me for the look on my face when I was doing Scottie Pippen's Slam Master and actually dunked. I said I was going to stop after this, but I feel like we should at least go through this boss and before hitting the next one, because this looks like an impressive boss. I'll try and be quick about it.
He's got dual sunfish in his aquarium in the background. Lots of people talking about their weather now in the chat.
How do you avoid the like the laser blast that he does?
I don't know. Oh. There you go. Jump over it.
Oh. No.
The guard droid. Yeah, like people who aren't into arcade games don't quite understand probably why we're so into them. It's because they're so much more powerful than console games. You know, they're just infinitely more powerful than like a Super Nintendo. I'm not saying they're better, but in terms of like sheer graphical power and just being able to jump in and have fun, they're hard to beat the real arcade game.
What was the game that you said, Smoke?
Mars Matrix is one that was recommended.
Mars Matrix, that's there. Okay.
I second. That's another Dreamcast game. It's ported to the Dreamcast.
Done. Loading. Beast says jump or down roll. Yeah. I'm not good enough to 1pp'd that, so when the world opens up and everybody starts feeling better, I should have people over and I'll host the stream, but what you'll be watching is the real players playing. I think that would be a lot more fun for people to watch, but we'll see when we can get to that. I always wanted to do something silly, like not in a competition, not in like something where there's like cheating and integrity, but like one of the retro roundtables where we used to play games every now and then. I always wanted to have Carsey over, and like I'll start playing the game, and then, you know, so you could see my hands and everything, and I'll be like, hold on, I gotta pee, and I'll hand him the controller, and then when I come back, have Carsey off camera, just like no damage, run a game, and then at the end tell everybody it's him, and he's on the stream. Like I wouldn't want to cheat sheet, but for something fun like that, I would love to do that, just to blow everybody's minds while I'm sitting there like with my hands out of view, pretending to play the controller, when it's actually Carsey just going through and messing up like original Castlevania or something.
Do it.
Almost done flashing.
Aaron Welsh wants you to play Quiz Nanairo Dreams, which I think is the dating simulator
I'll
that
pass.
None of us knew about. I think that Jotego just got that working or something the other day. Is it? Wait, it's Jotego, right?
So
you know how to pronounce it.
when I asked him about it, his name's Jose, and he had that as an extension of his name. So Jose Tejada Jotego. So that's Jotego because it's from
Okay.
Jose.
Makes sense.
Joseph says, even with all the shoveling these past few weeks, I still love New York City weather. Yeah, me too. I like the snow. I'm looking to move back to the burbs, and one of the places we were looking at's got like a wide, long driveway, and I'm just like, you know what? It's time to go back, because I was from birth until like 26 or 27, maybe even later than that. It was me who was shoveling always. Little kid, little fat kid with a jacket on, with his little shovel, all the way up to an adult having to do it. And then the first time I was in my apartment building in Stamford, and I got in the elevator. I didn't even have my coat on. I was holding my coat, and I walked into the parking garage, got into my warm car, and pulled up the entryway as the workers were shoveling the snow. All I remember thinking is, I earned this. Like this is like
all those years paid off.
So yeah, I've had many years of not having to do a damn thing. I feel like it's my turn to go back and start shoveling again.
Yeah, that's gonna be your life if you get a driveway, isn't it?
Yeah, and mowing lawns again. One of the houses we looked at was like a normal-sized house on a giant lawn. And the first thing I could think of was, who wants to live in that house? Like, it's different. Like, for people in the Midwest, like, a lot of houses in Indiana are like that, where it's big property and a house in the middle, but not in Connecticut. In Connecticut, where I grew up, it's like all houses are normal size or there's trees.
I used to mow our lawn. It took like an hour and a half in the summer. It was horrible, but that was like how you got your... and shoveling the snow. Although our driveway was pretty awesome. It went down. It sloped downhill, so it was pretty easy to shovel, comparatively.
Ooh.
But that was like video game money.
I don't know. Me too. Mowing lawns was how I got all my old. I had Genesis and Super Nintendo, but that was all lawn mowing money. That wasn't a kid spoiled and everything. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Here. One of the houses we looked at, it was like in the middle of a patch of giant grass, and it was like,
you're like, no.
Who wants to live in that house though? Because all that you're saying is like, I want everybody to look at me, and I want to spend 3 hours a week mowing my lawn. Like, it's not for me.
My dad, towards the end of his life, he had gotten he went to like farms auctions or something, and he got one of those lawnmowers that has like, you like sit on it, has like 2 sticks, and it goes like 20 miles per hour or something, it can go in circles. And like, he had a pretty big lawn. He could mow that thing in like 20 minutes. It was pretty awesome. That's what you'd need if you had a yard like that, or a tractor maybe.
All right, so I stink at this game, but I like this one a lot. Is this... I was distracted for a minute there, but it looks like there's also only one button on this game as well, not multiple. And it looks like you die when you get hit, pretty much. So this is challenging, but it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to keep going for a little while on it. Ooh, man, I stink at it. Yeah, no other buttons do anything. So it really does seem to be a one-button game.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I also don't want to be the guy that ends up on a lawnmower with a beer holder. Like in King of the Hill. There's got to be a happy medium.
I had some neighbors growing up that were really into their lawns, and yeah, I'm the same way. I was like, man, I was thinking about ways like, man, I would plant like a wildflower garden or something you don't have to mow. Cactuses,
right?
A cactus garden in your yard, something gigantic.
I had a tiny little house at one point that I owned, and The only thing that drove me nuts was there was just a giant boulder in the middle of the yard. And, like, yard to boulder ratio was the problem. And I finally asked a friend of mine who was in excavation and construction to come over. And he was like, yeah, I could do that for, like, I could do it for $2,000 because it's going to involve this and that. But my backhoe is at a repair shop, which is really close to your house. So we could just use that. So we legit, like, I dropped him off at the place, and he picked up his backhoe and drove it on main roads to my house so we wouldn't have to pay for transportation, which cops were passing us. No one said anything, because I think they thought that we must have only been going, like, a block or two and didn't realize it was, like, 7 miles away.
Like 2 miles.
And he tried everything. First, he tried pulling it out, and that didn't work. So then he was like, okay, no problem. We could try it with a jackhammer. And it was not budging, and a piece of rock shot off as they were jackhammering it and took a chunk out of his brother's hand. It's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Ow. He's like, yeah, it's all right. We went to the hospital, and then he tried drilling a hole and putting this stuff in it that eats it away at the inside, so you could like put a little bit of explosives in it in order to to do it that way, like legally, not like don't imagine a mushroom.
That's cloud. A serious boulder.
Yeah, he finally ended up that's why we ended up using the backhoe. And it was a 7,000-pound backhoe. And when he got it in there to leverage it out, the whole thing was teetering. He's like, that means the boulder was over 7,000 pounds. He's like, don't ever ask me to do anything again. All right, the game is amazing, but incredibly challenging. So, what was the dating simulator? Let's give that a minute. I'll probably play it less than it takes to actually load it, but...
Nano something. It starts with an N. You know, I wonder if that's on my base pack. Let's see.
I'm not seeing it. I wouldn't have liked it anyway, so it's fine.
If not, I would recommend Eco Fighters.
Okay.
If you're in shoot 'em ups mood. Everybody's already seen the Street Fighters, you know. So
not the same.
Ultimate Ecology. That's another name for Eco Fighters, I think.
Loading that one.
Let's see.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
New York City, 8x7 patch of green that I call a lawn, just enough to have to feed, water, and mow. Yeah, makes sense.
I've got a porch here. We
have a balcony.
No grass.
We almost didn't have a balcony. Arturo almost set it on fire. I am 100%. This is a true story. This is not an exaggeration. But the last time Art was over, he goes out to smoke a cigarette, and I was like, "Look, I know this is weird, but when you're done with your cigarettes, put it out in the ground outside and just like stamp it out with your foot." And it's much easier for me to like sweep it up because I sweep outside every time. Well, in nice weather, like every other day. And if you like knock the head off and throw it in the trash reeks of cigarettes. It's like, so just leave it out there. But Art's a good dude, right? He doesn't want to like throw a cigarette out on somebody's ground. So he stuck it in what he thought was a dead plant that had gone cold for the season. But he didn't realize that it was a plant, one of these things that you like plant them in the winter and then they start to bud in the spring and all that stuff. And my wife had gotten it all together and put fertilizer in it. So we put a couple of his cigarette butts out in this. And I'm walking around. You know, we had a few beers. So I'm like, I smell something burning. And then I go outside and I hear sirens. But I mean, there's always sirens outside. So I was like, all right, well, you know, maybe it's something. But I'm out in the balcony and I'm looking around and I'm like, all right, it doesn't smell out here. It only really smells in one of the rooms. So like maybe it's just coming in. And then all of a sudden I go back out later on that night and I see like glowing, smoldering embers in something. And I'm like, wait, what is that? And I realized that the fertilizer started to burn. And I have a bunch of friends who are like, you know, into gardening. And I was like, did you know that could happen? And they're like, honestly, no. Like, that's not, I didn't even know that insane. A cigarette butt could could light the thing on fire like that.
Makes sense though. You know, fertilizer, that's what they make explosives out of and whatnot. Nitrogen or something.
Oh yeah, totally.
Crazy. Yeah, so you control that stick that you're shooting with it's like a circle, yeah. Isn't that weird?
This control scheme's strange to me.
Yeah. Cool looking game.
I have played this before. This is I think I played it for like a minute, and I was like, I don't like this extra thing. But now that I'm on stream, I'm gonna give it another chance because I didn't want to waste everybody's time waiting while I was loading the game. So let's give it a real chance and see.
All these CPS2 games have that really good look to them.
They all look
it's almost like
sound amazing.
Like the Saturn kind of has that going on too. Like Saturn has its own kind of look to it that every game sort of has, and I think CPS2 is kind of the same way.
Agreed. I wonder if that's because of the default SDK, because Renee was talking a long time ago about how a lot of Genesis games sound the same, because Sega basically said, well, here's how you program sound for the Genesis. Don't use these default values because they're terrible. Use your own, but here's where to start, and most people just use the default values. So that's why a lot of them have that distinctive sound.
Yeah, I bet. That, and I think a lot of these are, you know, Capcom games, I guess. The majority of them. So maybe it was the same groups working on them as well. Oh yeah, Mark Dell asked about your setup. He must have missed the beginning of the stream. Bob's got a DarkSoft CPS2 Multi on real hardware. It has the digital HDMI mod, and he's running it into a custom upcoming Supergun. Like a no-nonsense, no really high-quality video type Supergun. Is that right?
And it's designed for people who either just want the cheapest Supergun possible, or for people who are looking to consoleize. So
the cheapest Supergun possible, but not the eBay.
Right. I should rephrase that. I think the beer's kicking in. The cheapest good audio video quality Supergun. So AV is going to be equal to every other premium choice. There's just no premium features. So no auto fire, no reprogramming of the buttons. Just, you get the best quality AV out that you can get from a Supergun in audio protection. So you don't have to worry. It's exactly like when I did that video about Superguns and audio and testing. So even if it's clipping, it's not sending high voltage. So you don't have to worry about it killing your SCART equipment.
People ask me like for Supergun recommendations. And so this is one area I'm usually not a purist. I'm just not. But when it comes to Superguns, I am really like, I can be a real dick. The things I'm looking for, like two features. It has to have buffered RGB, actively converted, 7374 ideally, or something like that. It has to have safe sync, regenerated sync if possible. And then like the audio, the automatic high-low conversion if possible. Because a lot of arcade games send speaker level audio off the JAMA edge, and that will fry SCART switches, it'll fry TVs, audio speakers, and things like that.
Absolutely.
And so that used to just mean HAS. That was the only one that did it 4 or 5 years ago, but nowadays there's actually quite a few. So it's a really good time to be shopping for Superguns, actually.
Yeah, the same thing should have never happened. That should have never been a thing. And I do completely understand, by the way, people making Superguns in the early 2000s or even before that, you were just solving a problem. So I'm absolutely not throwing shade at all. But once SCART started to become more of a thing that not just hardcore gamers understood, adhere to the standard, right? And a lot of people ignored it, and the worst was the one that not only did they ignore it, but they were just like, no, it's your fault, you should have known. And it's like, that's not how you make products. So there should be no excuse for sync levels that are too high.
I think this is the year 2021. The 1990s Superguns should be gone. They shouldn't exist anymore. I don't care how cheap that people want things. You can have it even cheaper with active buffering and everything nowadays. 7374, what do those cost? Like 50 cents or something? $1?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Is there a Street Fighter 2 with a boss hack? Super Street Fighter 2 Easy Akuma code? What's that? That's obviously off of your pack.
I think in order to get Akuma, you had to enter a code or something. Is that what that was? And that one might unlock him automatically or something.
Definitely don't remember.
These are relatively new hacks that I added on one of the last updates. Let me take a look.
Because I copied your pack first and the hacks afterwards, all of the hacks are at the end, which I actually love when you're trying to select games on something like this.
Mm-hmm. Not having them mixed in.
Yeah, it's actually great to not have it alphabetical, because all of a sudden when you get thrown off like that, it's perfect.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, there's Super Street Fighter 2 New Legacy.
Done. But as this is loading, you all need to understand that I am terrible at Street Fighter. I have friends that are amazing at Street Fighter. I watched Tech almost win a tournament against one of the global players. So please understand what you're about to see. It's going to be really bad. And while it's loading, I think I'm going to grab another beer just to have it up. Excuse me one sec.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. So I was watching a Team Spooky match tournament a few weeks ago. And some newbie player was in the tournament. And they got paired up against a real pro. And they just got annihilated. And I was just thinking to myself, like, man, that newbie is way better than me at Street Fighter. I was like picturing what I would be like in there. I would just not last 5 seconds. Yeah, Ricky and Dino said the Haas Supergun always has a wait list. That's true. So that's why it's nice to have all these new options opening up. The minigun is excellent. The Tian Fang stuff is really good. I've heard good things about the Parsec. So there's several to choose from. I have 2 Haas myself, so I don't really need anything new. Oh, hey, Undamned is here. Try the Konami code, yeah. Undamned makes arcade USB interfaces that are pretty awesome. Brian Gorel is asking what system Bob's using for CPS2. It's a CPS2.
All right, we're back.
Bob has the hard to believe, but Bob has the digital mod. That's why it looks so good.
Yes. Hey, is that Undamned? What's up, man?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Out of curiosity, is Destiny still listening? Chime in if you are. All right, New Legacy. Who should I play as?
I have no idea. I always default to like Ryu or Chun-Li.
Yeah. How about we let them decide?
Yeah. Okay. So I think Team Spooky might have done us. Did they do a Street Fighter 2 New Legacy?
I think they might have
stream or tournament or something recently. This is a brand new hack that's still being made. Like it gets updated every few months, and I think you're on version 0.4 if you have my new pack, which is the latest and greatest.
I may have the pack before that. I actually don't know any of Bison's moves.
So it's either 0.3 or 0.4, but they're both pretty recent. Somebody asked what I was drinking. I'm drinking an Ayinger Altbärisch Dunkel. What are you on right now, Bob? What are you drinking?
I'm still on another Nitro Milk Stout. I did the pour off camera because I was also eating a Rice Krispie treat. It's actually a Lucky Charms.
You know, I've
treat.
never had a Nitro beer or a Nitro coffee. How are those? I was really curious to try them, and I've never tried one. Because I know about the process for making Nitro coffee.
It tastes like Guinness, but different. But you can't drink too much of them because it starts to mess with your stomach.
Mm.
And I don't want to be graphic, so I'll just say it'll mess with your stomach the next morning, not that night.
Oh God, that's what I just lived through.
All right, so I'm definitely gonna lose the next match. So definitely let me know who you want me to play as the next one.
So I told a story earlier about the last Team Spooky tournament I watched where some newbie was like paired up against a pro.
Oh, yeah?
And they got annihilated. But the whole time I was watching, I was thinking like, man, that newbie is a lot better than me at Street Fighter. I was like, I wouldn't last 5 seconds in one of these things.
Yeah, I'm getting my butt whooped already. I don't know a single one of Bison's moves, so it's probably best.
Firebrand X says, just play Ken. Undamned said, Super Street Fighter 2X computer is no fun.
Alright.
I'm going to link the new Legacy. It's a French group that does this. I'm going to link it in the chat here if anybody wants to read up about all the things that they do to it.
Absolutely. Alright. I'm gonna go old school. That's what I used to play in the arcades. Once again, it was never good. Just what I used to play.
Yeah, so my arcade, so we had 2 arcades in my town. It was a relatively small city that was nearby. We had one really small arcade in my actual town. There was one arcade that was the Street Fighter arcade, and then the other arcade was older sort of games. I mean, the Street Fighter arcade was also where the Mortal Kombat stuff went on. But they had like a Capcom big blue like presentation cabinet with the big monitor and a pedestal. And that was always where the new, Street Fighter Alpha 2 was on. I didn't play those, I just watched. Same thing with Mortal Kombat. I played maybe a few times, but it was always like a big group of people who were really into it. And then later when Tekken happened, that happened at the other arcade across town. And I definitely never played Tekken.
Ooh.
Those guys were crazy.
You'll do better in normal super. Yeah. Once again, I think these hacks are meant for pro players.
Yeah, they're like competition style hacks. They're hacks for people who played the game so much that they know every square centimeter of it, and they can play it in their sleep, and they wanted something new, basically.
Yeah. All right. I'll try one more player, and then we should move on to a game that's I'm not going to be this bad at. I do always think it's funny, like if you see in front of his face by where his hair is, there's like the dithering effect, but this was on arcades that didn't really utilize dithering because they were all RGB.
Yeah, you started to see some dithering in arcade games. It was really sad, like in the late 90s. Some of those, you see it in some of those new Thomas Wave ports. Some really bad, it's like they dithered it like they wanted to make it HD or something. Well, one game I really like, have you played Mighty Peng?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, puzzle game. It's pretty casual. You might like that. It's a game that's on a whole bunch of different systems.
It was less embarrassing that time.
Oh, okay. I see. People are saying that you meant dithering like as a way to fake transparency. I'm talking about something else. Yeah.
I was kind of wondering where you're going with that. I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'm just gonna sit here and get
what
my
do you
ass
call
kicked.
it? It's like AA. That's
Anti-aliasing, yeah.
Yeah, they applied those filters to the 2D sprites in some of the Thomas Wave games, which is bad to me.
Shane's got a soft spot for dithering. Yeah.
Hey, Shane Lynch is here.
Oh,
Shane does a lot of light gun stuff on Mister.
Shane does a lot of cool stuff. All right, I suck at this. What are we up next?
Try Mighty Pang. Oh, you could do Super Puzzle Fighter maybe later too. You like that game, right?
I have barely played it, but yeah, we'll probably end with that just because that's already available on the Mr. Core if you're a Jotego supporter. So that's probably a good one to go to. All right, this one's writing pretty quick too, so it shouldn't be too long waiting. I do think it's really funny that when it's programming, the CPSHDMI has like it's frozen with a bunch of what was last on the screen because the RGB monitor has nothing. It's just a black screen right now. I think that's kind of funny that it's frozen like that.
Mm-hmm. Does it have like a 1 frame buffer or something, or like a 1/5 of a frame? It looks like 1/6 of a frame.
Yeah, that's gonna be it. Whatever the buffer is, it's fast enough that even the pro players can't tell, and the players that I know would be able to tell. So I measured it too and all that stuff. But measurements aside, like, what it actually equates to in real life is more important.
And I saw that you saw there's a Mr. Lynx core in the works.
Yeah, I just haven't had time to write that up. I kept meaning to get around to that today, but I had kind of a crazy day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because that's one I would really like. I used to have Lynx. I used to have 2 Lynx, and I never rebought them. There's only like 2 or 3 games I liked for it, but there were some interesting sounding games I would like to see.
So Joel says, does CPS2 work with CPS1 ROMs? No, right?
No. Because
CPS1
is like the sound effects aren't really compatible at all with CPS2, which is all Q sound. So CPS 1.5 games can be converted. And in the CPS1 to CPS2 conversion games, what they're doing is they're converting the audio, I think, to Q sound.
I don't know what I'm doing.
You like shoot a thing up to block balloons. Something like that. So I must be way behind where you're actually at when I'm watching the stream here.
It's been varying. When I don't know how a stream could vary, but yeah, it does seem to be because when we first started out, there was less lag than there is now. This is an interesting game. Is this the entire game?
Yeah, you'll figure it out too. There's like a technique to it. You want to have them hit it from the side generally, I think. It's addictive and it's not like the other games. So try to get it all the way to the ceiling. That's the technique. If they break it on the way up, it's not as effective.
Any light gun games for Lynx?
Yeah, maybe Shane can make that happen. I really liked Lynx Rampage and Lynx All Points Bulletin, APB. And then it looked like there was a shoot 'em up that I was interested in, which I've never played. Yeah, it's Buster Bros.
I'm so confused as to what just happened. Alright, I'll try it one more time.
You can shoot it into those little slots, yeah.
So, panic mode, tour mode, or expert mode? I'm assuming not expert.
I would play easy. So, Amarare is asking, how far do you think we are to CPS3 core for Mister? We aren't. So, unfortunately, like the CPS1 to 1.5 to 2 transition ends at CPS2. So it doesn't really get you anywhere towards CPS3, which is an extremely powerful system with only a few games. So I definitely wouldn't ever hold your breath for CPS3.
And aren't there some really good ports of CPS3 games?
Yeah, the Dreamcast port of
Street Fighter, right?
Street Fighter 3, yeah, is really good. And then what's the other one? Red. I forget the name of it. There's really only like 2 games I'd be interested in on it. But yeah, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike has been ported to a lot of systems, and you've got pretty good ports of it, so. Red Earth, thanks Google bought me. That's another multi that I missed the boat on, because CPS3 actually wasn't that expensive maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And nowadays, man, they are insanely expensive.
Alright, I think I'm almost mighty panged out. I guess we should pick 2 more. We'll end with Puzzle Fighter, because that's what's available now. But what do you think is another game that might celebrate the upcoming Myster release for people to be able to experience these games lag-free?
I don't know. Call games out, people. I'm looking at the list here, scrolling through it.
This was definitely interesting. Marvel vs. Capcom, I would play that, but like I'm really bad. So if no one else calls one out, I'll totally do that one. But the only problem with it is you're not going to see what the game is like. Like, if Beast or Art were here, I could show you Marvel vs. Capcom. Cyberbots, Dungeons and Dragons, Darkstalkers, Sega Jade, Chora. I'm using a Vuelix. See if I could. Giant ass Vuelix. Love this thing. It weighs like as much as a PVM. Mark Curtis, we opened with that one. Otherwise, I totally would. I really enjoyed the heck out of it. Wasn't that Mega Man fighting game? You know what? I think that's the one because it's something weird.
Yeah, there's that like boss battle style Mega Man game. Power battles, yeah.
So there's Mega Man and there's Mega Man 2 Power Fighter? Mega Man. Let's just hit Mega Man. See what happens. And then we'll end with Puzzle Fighter because that one's available now for any of Jotego's Patreon subscribers. And
this is too. So this is on the CPS1 Core. Because what's interesting is towards the end of the CPS1's life, when CPS2 was already a thing, some of the games got backported to CPS1, and Mega Man was one of them.
That's pretty cool. So, Undamned said Powered Gear is dope. Isn't that the same thing as Pro Gear? Isn't that what the Japanese version of Pro Gear was?
No, it's Armored Warriors. That's a beat 'em up.
Oh, okay. Are you drinking Coke? No, sir. I'm drinking this, actually. There you go. Milk Stout Nitro. All right.
SVC Chaos, Dr. Claw 77. It was on Neo Geo, and it was also a standalone game.
That dude, we already did Pro Gear, and I loved it. Wasn't good at it, but I loved it. So
You just practice it for a month and then come back on and just like once you see it.
yeah, it's never gonna happen.
Memorized it.
Never gonna happen.
That is though, like some people think that people are just like. I mean, there are some people who are just naturally gods at shoot 'em ups, but whenever you see someone like onesie saying a shoot 'em up, they've played it before. It's usually unless it's super easy, they have memorized what they're supposed to do. That's part of the fun. Your screen is a little off inside of your bezel there.
Oh, I think the bezel moved. Sorry. I don't know how that happened. I don't think I touched anything. So this is a 2-button game. You basically just shoot and jump.
Okay. That's the other cool thing on Mister is that Jotego has been adding pause and some other arcade people, because there's usually a dip switch for pause in a lot of arcade games. And that's something you don't have with the real arcade hardware unless you're throwing dips.
Okay, so...
It was actually there...
No, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, the pause feature, I think that somebody told me pause was there usually to make it easier for, like, magazines to take photos back in the day.
I didn't realize that, but that would make sense.
That's what they said.
So this game is essentially the boss battles of Mega Man, but only the boss battles in like a fighting game style. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Undam said the CPS2 Mega Man 1 release is the hardest to find. Definitely the gatekeeper preventing collectors from getting a full set. Oh, interesting. Well, it's colorful. It's good, great music. It's good characters, we know. So I'm in. I'll be done in like 20 minutes.
And I think Jotego has done the CPS Changer games too, which is a really interesting system most people don't know about. So Capcom, I guess for rich people, you know, people who own yachts, they released like the CPS Changer, which was a Capcom CPS1, I think it was CPS1, right? That was like a console, like a gigantic console with S-Video. And you could plug Super Nintendo controllers into it.
That's pretty awesome. Ooh.
And actually, Capcom made one of the first super guns with that system. It's basically a super gun plugged, you know, with a standalone like A-board type deal. Yeah, this is a good choice.
This is pretty cool.
And there's 2 of these games on it.
So the good and the bad of this, right? Like, my favorite part of the Mega Man games was never the boss fights. Those were always my least favorite parts. I loved going through the levels. I loved figuring those out. And this, you know, so that's the bad part. But the good part is the worst part of the boss battles was having to get there to memorize all of their moves. Whereas with this, like, I imagine if I just played this for an hour or so, I'd already kind of have all of the things, maybe not memorized, but they'd be familiar. So I'd be able to be like, oh, okay, every time he shoots the leaves, jump. Every time I see him do this, you know, duck or run under or something like that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. The bosses were the part I was not in the Mega Man games for. I was never huge into Mega Man, though, because I never owned any of them. I only played them at friends' houses. I think you're big into Mega Man, aren't you?
I loved 1 and 2. Which is funny because I only had 2 as a kid, and when I went to rediscover them, like, I still, 1 is my favorite. Oh, I jumped right into that. This is such a neat game. I don't know why I'm enjoying this so much. It's just, it's everything that's
awesome.
cool about a Mega Man boss battle, but without having to painfully sit through the brutal stages first.
And what's a cool thing is, so if you play on CPS1, I think the audio is all FM sound. And if you play on CPS2, it's all Q sound. So it's like 2 totally different things, but the game themselves, I think, are about the same.
So is there a version of this available on CPS1 that people could play on the CPS1 Core as
Yeah.
well? Oh, that's awesome. Honorian? I was trying to figure out how to say that. Thank
$5.
you so much, Honorian. Is that how you would say that? That's a pretty cool name. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you.
Vanessa said she only really likes X1 through 4 and Mega Man 2 and 3. Vanessa's really good with numbers, I've noticed. I just mentioned this the other day. I think it's an attribute of Final Fantasy fans, is that they're really good at remembering the number of which games they like, because I'm really bad at that.
Well, I mean, there's like 9,000 Final Fantasy games, so you have to remember.
I know, and I never understand how they're like, oh, I love Final Fantasy 42, but it's not quite as good as 41.
Oh, but it doesn't have the graphics of 37, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my time on this game is gonna end very quick because I think I'm getting my butt kicked already.
Yeah, I do like those Mega Man games, the X ones that have like bigger sprites. I remember playing those later in life on Saturn and whatnot. Those were cool. Actually, I have all the Mega Mans on the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom carts of them that I got back when I was just collecting any game that had special chips.
Yeah, I mean, well, that would make sense though, because before all of the chip support was added to the SD to SNES, which is now FX Pack, it would totally make sense that you just buy all those special chip games in a cheap ROM cart. Dr. Claus said they've been playing a ton of Wily Wars. During the pandemic. I had never sat and spent a lot of time because at first you couldn't really save right, and now you can. But by that time I was just like, I got super busy. But that's a game I would love to play, and if there was ever like an official repro of it, like a Capcom announcement, which Retrobit was supposed to do, but I honestly don't think they had any clue what they were doing when they signed up for that. Because they were asking me, like, what do you think the best version of Wily Wars is? And I'm like, oh boy, you guys have a lot of work to go.
Yeah, then somebody reissued it, and then like they didn't do any of the fixes that we had in the ROM hacks. And it was like, okay, so you reissued a game that was fundamentally broken, pretty much.
That wasn't an official reissue, though, was it?
I thought it was. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
I could be remembering wrong, because I know Retrobit... you know, for my tease just now was true, but to their defense, the reason it's not available is because they don't want to half-ass it. They know Mega Man's a giant name, and they don't want to let everybody down. So I actually respect.
Yeah, but
the hacks
were like, removing the frame drop when you slide and stuff like that, or
and the saving,
fixing the frame rate from 50 to 60 correctly, stuff like that.
Yeah, those are the ones that are really important. Do you have a definitive edition that you know is like, this is all the hacks that you would want?
The one in my pack is. So it has all of the like quality of life improvements rolled up into one. The one I reference.
All right. So I'm going to switch to Super Puzzle Fighter, and I'm going to use the bathroom real quick because all the beer's kicking in. And I think we're going to call it after that. But I definitely want to end on this because you can play it right now if you support Jotego on Patreon.
Yeah. Hey, Lon TV's here.
Lon, what's up, dude? Super
Puzzle
Fighter Turbo, right? All right. I will be back in 30 seconds.
Lon's feeding his children. Will be listening and glancing. I think this will be the last game, Lon. But it's a good one. Yeah, Chris Pratt's the version I'm talking about is just like quality of life fixes and optimizations, because that game is so the Genesis version is so buggy. I think they might have even added like SRAM saving to it, if I remember correctly. I remember to make the ultimate version, I had to combine like 4 or 5 different hacks into one. Yeah, Shane. I think there's actually 2 different people did it 2 different ways, and the newer of the 2 was the better one, but I can't remember exactly. This is what happens when you're trying to remember like detailed information from like 5 years ago. But definitely, if you play it side by side, the original one, and then you go to the fixed version, you would never go back to the original because like the frame rate stuff is pretty serious. Yeah, Felipe is saying he lives in Rio. retro gaming is freaking expensive, and he's seriously thinking about going to Japan and bringing like 3 full bags from there. Yeah, I lived in Brazil for 6 years, and I feel your pain. The game and the import tax is killer too there. I was in Porto Alegre in the south, though. I was even further from the gaming capital of Sao Paulo. Yeah, the nice thing about Brazil is you have like a really big carry-on allowance on airplanes, like 75 pounds per bag. They might have like pulled back on. We were just talking about it the other day, Vanessa and I.
All right, I think I made it. I think I didn't make everybody wait. I'm really sorry about that. I'm a very large man with a tiny little bladder.
No, I'm getting caught up on chat comments.
Oh, thank you, Smoke.
Yeah, it still seems like there's better deals in Japan than the US, but maybe that's changing. I don't really know.
So is this like columns?
Yeah, it's sort of like columns-y style. Mm-hmm.
So how come 3 in a row didn't work?
Or Puyo.
I never played Puyo.
More like Puyo. I'm not actually a big Puyo fan. You know, it's like I like puzzle games a lot, but I just never got into the Puyo games.
So I don't really understand what I'm doing. Is this not...
Connect all the blues together, and once you get enough, you'll create a combo.
Oh. Okay.
My wife's Brazilian, and yeah, I worked there too in archaeology. I'm still on 2 Brazilian archaeology projects officially. We're just into the research phase now, not the field work.
I follow a lot of the amateur archaeology stuff that's going on, and some of it's really cool, and I mean, it's just like anything else amateurish. Other times you look at it and it's just like, all right. So that was obviously like an archaeology team excavating something at a dig that's not ancient. Why are we talking about it?
There's something for everyone. I mean, there's people who do modern, like digging up trash heaps from modern times, even historical archaeology and stuff.
I have no idea how I did this.
You're doing good. You're like setting up your combos and stuff. I can't really give you any tips because I've only played it a few times too. I know this is a really popular game though.
Oh, people love this game. Anybody in the chat want to give me any tips on this? There are breaker gems that you use to break what you've built. Okay, good tip.
Jonathan G asks if I'm interested in planetary geology. I'm interested in Earth geology, and I mean, I would be interested in planetary geology. I just don't know much about it besides what I see on, you know, BBC documentaries. Yeah, this looks like a game where I bet that once you start seeing the patterns, you'd be really good at it.
I'm just trying to keep the colors near each other and hope for the best. But anybody that has any other suggestions, please let me know.
It's a good way to go at it, I think.
I mean, I'm doing something right.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, all right.
1 sec.
I am so sorry to be offensive. I don't mean to I don't mean to upset anybody who's taken the time to watch this stream, but my impression of this game is just making me want to play columns. So anybody in the chat, please feel free to convince me that I'm being a moron about this, because I might be. But when I see this, all I just see is like really pretty colors and like good graphics of a game that I wish was columns. I don't even know what this is. Thank you so much, John Simon. I really appreciate that, even though I'm getting my butt kicked at this game. It's very nice of you. Alright, well, I lost this round. Retro couple, stick with it. It gets really fun. I'm gonna definitely play another couple of rounds of it, just to make sure I do stick with it. You're not... there are no Hadoukens and columns. That's fair. That's fair. The unique mechanic of this game are the combos. That's the fun part. Just reading through everybody. Sorry for being slow. Make sure gems the same color. Break them with the circle ones. Oh! So I stack up a bunch of colors and then use the circle ones to break them.
Do the thing with the thing.
Well, you know...
My cat was using my headphones as a pillow while I was gone. That's kind of cute. I'm switching over to port here. I've got some sand, because we were talking Brazil. It's from Portugal, and apparently it's popular in Brazil. Sandaman Tawny, 10 years aged.
Oh, nice.
This is not the stuff that made me sick the other day. Port is apparently, like, very affordable, actually. Like, you would think 10-year aged fancy stuff from Portugal would be expensive. It's not bad at all. It's like 20 bucks. Less than 20.
Okay, so I only have 2 here, but that's enough to break the combo. Okay, suddenly this game just got way better.
Stargate Coffee, that's an awesome username.
That's a username? You've won. You've won, my friend.
I would drink it. I would go to your cafe like every day.
Oh, so you can't stack square on top of. You have to actually break with the circle. Okay.
So, you know, I love puzzle games. Maybe I should look more into this one, actually.
Alright, at this point, I'm just, evening things out. I might just lose this one and then go to another.
Bug Whacker said, do you think that the Naomi 2 hardware will ever have a core for Mr.? I don't think so. Dreamcast seems like pushing it. I don't really know. I don't have any reason to think one way or another. I would just say probably not. Because I would think that even just regular Dreamcast would be a stretch, and then you're talking Naomi is slightly more powerful, and Naomi 2 is slightly more powerful. But, I mean, one day you'll have an FPGA version for sure. It might be a future Mr. platform, you know, 5 years from now or something. I mean, they're talking Saturn too now, and I never thought Saturn would be done for 5 years, so you never know. But
So, the colors of the circles matter too? That's gotta be what this is then. Okay. So blue circles versus red circles. I feel kind of dumb for taking a while to figure this out, but you know,
what's the countdown?
I have had a few.
Is the countdown like bombs that go off?
Anybody in the chat would love to hear your explanation.
The bombs have colors, it looks like. It is funny, we both have CPS2 hardware setups, and so people probably think that we're like the world experts on a lot of games, but it's like, the truth is that a lot of times when I fired up my CPS2, I go back to the games that I know.
Yeah. Well, I also, I have trust issues too, because there's been plenty of times over the years where somebody's like, oh, you have to try this game, it's the best game ever, but what they're really saying is, this game made me really happy when I was a kid, which is great, but that's not a game I want to play today, so...
I just had that experience last night, and I'm gonna blame Vanessa again. So, I heard about Babylon 5 for a long time. People tell me it's the greatest show ever made. I love Star Trek and all that. And so they're like, you gotta watch Babylon 5. It's like the greatest show ever made. And so I watched it, and I'm like, I made it 20 minutes into the first episode, and I had to turn it off. So I guess maybe it's one of those things that grows on you, is what I'm told. Nothing against Babylon 5 or its fans or anything. It's just like, it looked like a Cinemax space porn, but without the porn.
That's pretty funny.
like space erotica, but there was no erotica happening. Like low budget. Oh, on TV said I could never get in Babylon 5. Okay, I don't feel so bad then. And Vanessa said you got to get to season 2. I might, once I'm out of other shows to watch, I'll probably go back to it, because I get pretty desperate once I'm out of stuff to watch. YY was asking about hacks or ports. Bob actually showed some earlier. Street Fighter New Legacy, Pro Gear Halfway to Hell. Those are the big ones. And then there's a handful of other, like player unlock hacks. Stuff like that. Oh, and now Lon TV said you gotta watch some Earth Final Conflict. See, I've never even heard of that.
I don't know, Lon, what is that, man? I'm in, but what is it?
I'll watch it. It doesn't take much to get me to watch a show nowadays. Now that we're at the bottom of the barrel for our backlogs.
If you ever want to get really mad, if you ever hate the world and you're just like, I know that there's nothing I can do to change it, so let me just get even more mad. Watch the last Netflix special about the girl that disappeared. Because as with all Netflix documentaries, they take a really great idea that could be done in about an hour and a half, and now it's 4 hours long. Like
eight hour long miniseries.
Yeah, but it gets so much worse because it's about something that there is a bunch of I forgot what it's called, but it's about the Asian Canadian that disappeared in a hotel in LA in the war section, and it was interesting, and there were a whole bunch of conspiracy theories because there were some coincidences that legit were too weird to be just coincidence, but they were. And the parts in it that drove me so crazy, especially anybody that has an online presence and never been attacked before or something. This dude stayed at the same hotel that she did before she disappeared. And there's a video of him, talking in the hotel, and then they show the video of him and his, black metal band, which is, horror movie based, and it's well, this is definitely the killer. He's definitely the killer. They make you wait an entire episode to realize he does not live in the U.S., he's from a different country. He was there a year before she disappeared, and had not been outside of his country since. Yet their entire group of internet sleuths...
So it's just a big nothing burger.
Yeah, but an entire group of internet sleuths shut his life down. And I'm just like, why isn't the documentary about that? Why isn't the documentary about having these people thrown in prison for ruining somebody's life forever? And it made me so upset. So I'd rather watch Tiger
I do see
King
sometimes... I'm with you. Sometimes I'll watch a documentary and I'm like, why isn't the documentary about this? Not the subject you're covering, but the side thing you're talking about. Way more interesting.
Well, it's a very Netflixy thing to do.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about Netflix documentaries, but I've seen some that I like.
There's some good ones.
I like HBO ones are really good. I just watched one about the Monopoly the $1 million Monopoly scandal. That was actually really good. I was like, how am I going to watch a 5-hour documentary series about the Monopoly scandal? But it was very good. I think it was HBO.
You know which one I really like? And don't judge me for this, but there's one on Amazon, and I know Amazon documentaries, oh man, are they terrible, but It was called Walking with the Tall Whites. And no, it's not racist, so don't even go there, chat. But it was basically about this guy who used to be in the military that claims that he had contact with aliens. And the reason I loved it is because...
The Tall Whites. Oh, the Whites. I remember those.
Well...
From Fox.
Yeah, but like, the reason I loved it is even if the documentary was advertised as not a documentary, even if it was advertised as a complete work of fiction, and here's just somebody's story, I liked the story. I thought it was a cool story. There was no evil in it. There was no.
That's how I am with documentaries too. It's like I don't need to even have any interest at all in the subject. If they do a good job with the documentary, I'll watch it. You know, it can be about sports that I don't follow, stuff like that. I think that's the sign of a good documentary.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And we get a lot of that in the nerd world with stuff with people building things, where it's like, even if you're not really into the thing that they're building, you just appreciate the effort that's being put into something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Yeah, McMillions. That dude is the one I watched. That's right.
Oh yeah, exactly. That one was actually pretty decent.
And Felipe asked earlier if we were interested in astronautics, like SpaceX, ISS, Perseverance. I am, and I follow that through Lon TV.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, Lon is the one that's been getting me more inspired. Funny though, I just saw. I gotta disagree with you, Lon. We're gonna respectfully disagree with you. Lon just said the Bob Lazar one on Netflix is good too for UFO stuff. I don't, sorry to, once again, if I might offend anybody, I think Jeremy Corbell is a blowhard loser whose idea of indisputable proof is a footage of him talking to his cell phone in speakerphone mode as he talks to somebody else. But if you really want a great version of Bob Lazar's story, listen to the interview with him on Joe Rogan, because it's just candid. And I truly believe everything. He thinks everything's real, and I kind of believe him. The only parts of his story that I kind of wish they went into more detail on is if you wanted to keep a secret. So let's say Smokemonster designs technology that's so impressive it might actually look alien. How do you prevent other people from stealing it? You tell people it's aliens, and then you tell everybody that walks into the room a different story about why it's alien. And then that's also how you could track who's leaking your story, because if Smokemonster says it comes from Zeta Reticuli, and I go tell people that he knows I'm the one that leaked it.
I usually use fish people technology, actually.
There you go.
Myself.
So that's the only thing, there could actually not be anything alien about it. It could just be technology they're working on that they're trying to figure out how to get to work reliably. And to prevent people from leaking it, they're making them look like idiots if they actually talk about it publicly. But that's the only thing, because I actually believe Bob Lazar. I at the very least believe that he thinks he's telling the truth above everything else. So
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. But I agree with you. I don't care. If somebody believes it, I mean, that's the basis of religion, right? Somebody believes these things. There were cultures that worshipped, like, crab gods,
True.
Think about it.
Lon, if you're ever bored and have time to kill, which somebody that works as hard as Lon does probably doesn't have any time to kill, but if you're ever bored and have time to kill, I will do a podcast with you just about aliens. Like, I'm totally into it. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm also somebody that's read history my whole life. And it's so funny to hear how quickly people drop that term. Oh, well, they're just a conspiracy theorist. No, that's a history reference that actually happened. So it's hard to pick through crazy people and history that might still be repeating itself.
Speaking of history, not to change the subject, but I'm watching right now. Oh. I'm one episode into. This is funny because I thought it was going to be terrible. The Discovery Channel, like 1995 or 1996, The Revolutionary War.
Oh, really?
Back when Discovery Channel still made good stuff. Yeah, it's like a VHS transfer or something of it. It's really good. It's almost like a Ken Burns documentary. Except they have reenactment stuff that's a little iffy, I'm not big into that. But it sort of works. It's a good one.
Well, thank everybody for coming to this. Honestly, this has been so much fun. Smoke, there's very few people in the world I would have wanted to go through the CPS2 journey with, and you're definitely, you were the first person I contacted, and I'm so glad that you had the time to do it. I really hope this gives people a good idea of both what to expect from the CPS2 in general, but also what you could expect when Jotego's Core comes out. And this isn't a sponsored live stream. He didn't pay me to do this. I have the equipment.
He paid me.
I have the equipment. I have the desire to, and Smoke was willing, so I wanted to do this. And there were so many really good games on it. Puzzle Fighter might have been my least favorite. So I'm so sorry. But
well, that's awesome though. I mean, if you just found a new favorite game, I mean, that would be huge. I think you were doing really good at it really quick too.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of shooters that I really enjoyed that I'm going to go back to without a shadow of a doubt. And I also, oh, thank you so much, Tense. That's really nice of you. I really appreciate that. I'm really glad that you might have been entertained enough for this. But yeah, honestly, this is cool. I'm going to find a bunch of favorites. And thank you to everybody in the chat that reminded me about how you can program Mister and how the different ways people had to launch directly into an arcade core. Because I think that's something that, experience is a giant thing when it comes to all games. And I think if I have my little mini arcade machine, that video will be out soon, by the way, with Porkchop's new adapter in there. If I got really into one game, I would love to be able to, flip the switch on and have it boot into that game every time I turn it on, knowing like that would be like my arcade experience. So, Lon, thanks too, man. And yes, absolutely. When stuff calms down, you have to come to the city. We'll do a fun city tour. We'll put booze in coffee cups so we look like responsible adults, but we're actually having a great time the whole day. It'll be a blast. This will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bob. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Nobody shows CPS2 DarkSoft kit. Nobody. So if people don't realize how special the stream this is, it's very special. Nobody has these things, and if they do, they got them way back when. Because nowadays they're super expensive. So this is a real treat for people to see the real hardware. And it'll be cool for you to revisit these exact games on Jotego's Core later.
Yeah.
And compare. And man, I mean, people, you're in for such a huge treat with this system, just being so powerful, so much Capcom, so much beautiful colors, and these games are relatively totally unknown for the most part, outside of the Street Fighters and maybe Vampire Savior and stuff like that. It's just all new territory to explore from your favorite era of gaming, and at the height of 2D gaming too.
Yes, good point. Another good point.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you are an insane, crazy person like I am, and real hardware is very important to you, I put in the chat, or I put in the description, my video about the CPSHDMI, a link to the DarkSoft Multi. You'll have to find your own CPS A and B boards, and of course, I also threw a link to Smoke's Patreon in there because that's very important as well. So,
yeah, and support Bob's Patreon, by the way, which hopefully you've got a link in there to yours for the
somewhere
RetroRGB.com and everything for the channel, for all of the stuff behind the scenes that he does, server fees and stuff like that. It's very expensive, actually.
So I'll mention this only because it's the end of the stream and people are dropping off anyway, but I just updated a new page on the website that's just /support. And the reason for that is a lot of people asked, like, hey, I'm not in a position to support monthly, but I would like to just to help. How could I do that? And I felt really weird about this at first, but the truth is, if you want to help, and all you have to do is go and click on the Amazon or eBay link, buy anything that you were going to buy anyway for the same exact price, and I'll get like a penny out of every $100 that you buy. But that stuff adds up. That's quantity,
and if people, and you can click through our articles too. So any article where we usually throw on a couple of Amazon links at the end, or if we're talking about, like if I'm talking about cables, I link to them through Amazon. If you buy it through those links, Bob gets a little kickback, and it doesn't cost you anything. So it's
correct. I never want to cost people money unless they're completely aware of what it costs.
Yeah, it's like free money. You're throwing Bob free money.
So yeah, for everybody that always asks about that, I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Smoke, I appreciate you, my friend. So I'm so sad that we're not able to do this in person more often, because of everything going on, but I'm glad that we're able to do the live stream. And thank you for coming. And I'm sure I will see you really drunk on one of the Ian or Yahel streams again in the future.
Hopefully. Hopefully, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank everybody so much.
Sure.
We'll see you all next time.
Bye.